Town Council Budget Work Session, April 2nd, 6 p.m. Cape Charles Civic Center. If I could get a roll call, please.
Holloway present.
Grossman present.
Ashworth present.
Buffalo present. And let it be known we've established a quorum. Mr. Newman is running a little bit behind.
And Ken's going to be on the phone.
Oh, shoot. What do
Well,
I need
he
to do?
hasn't called in yet.
Oh.
He said his cell phone might be, signals might be sketchy, so he's going to try.
Okay, so I'll wait to hear the phone ring
Yes,
first.
the phone will.
Yeah. All right, so our first item of discussion this evening is Davenport and Company's presentation. Good to have you here.
Mayor, David Rose, Ethan Johnson, and we've got a handout, which is what we call our executive summary.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll use that tonight. While Ethan is handing this out, just for everyone's benefit, those in the audience, we are and have been retained by the town to serve in an advisory capacity. We're not here to sell anything. We're not here to provide any specific recommendation per se this evening, but rather to start a dialogue. And so think of us just like you're starting your budget deliberations tonight. This is a work in progress, but hopefully some of the things that I will talk about tonight will be helpful to you as you evolve. So with that, I want to also make sure I give the fair amount of thanks to Rick and his staff, and particularly the treasurer, basically all the folks that you have that have worked really hard. Otherwise, we couldn't be doing this tonight. So any mistakes that we have are ours, I can assure you. Ethan, you want to come on up here? Move them up here. All of that being said, for those of you who don't know, maybe not familiar with Davenport, this is my 30th year at Davenport, which actually means I'm a young person there. We're 170 years old out of Richmond, where I'm from, and Davenport is still private, independent, and I manage the public finance practice, so very excited about that. Again, Ethan joined us from the University of Virginia, so though some of you may have heard of that place, you know, we have, you know. Like to give them a hard time, but anyway, but on a serious note, what we'd like to do again is just walk you through some things, highlight some things. We have a bigger book behind it. We do recycling of trees, by the way, just so you know. It's, we're pretty good about that. So with that said, if everyone has it, I know maybe some people in the audience, we certainly can, by all means, get some of these copies to anyone and everyone. This is meant to be a public document. There's no reason that it can't be fully.
I have an extra copy of it right
Okay.
There's copies on the table for the public.
Yeah.
It's in the packets.
Okay. So if we just would, just turn to page 1, a little bit of introduction. I'm not going to belabor you by reading every page and every word on every page, but we were asked to provide what we call a comprehensive financial review. Basically, it's a type of thing that we look at the history of the town, we look at and create a pro forma, we provide some insights as it relates to policies. A lot of what was the genesis of this, of course, was that second bullet point, when you sold the system and, of course, brought in some $15 million, which is being invested by the treasurer as we speak. So the way I like to think about this, I've got certain clients here in Virginia that have been going on over 45 years, almost 45 years. And so what we're trying to think about is not what just makes sense for this upcoming budget, but what makes sense for 5 and 10 years from now, if not longer. So that's the mindset that we're going to take and have taken to look at things of your situation. So with all of that being said, let's go to page 2. We have a series of goals and objectives. You can read them. Again, I'm not going to regurgitate this, but one of the things we do a lot of is peer comparisons. We try to look at financial and demographic trends and metrics, particularly for an in-state. We do a lot of work in other states, but they're set up differently, so I'm not going to tell you, let's look at North Carolina, let's look at Maryland, even though they're not very far away. Really, we're set up a little differently, as you know. So that's mostly what we do, and we think about it in terms of best practices. So on page 3, while you pay off all your debt, we're going to recommend that we create some new policies for debt as we go forward. There is a healthy blend of being able to pay cash for things as well as borrowing for things based upon something that has a long-lived asset. So we want to make sure that even though the town is sitting on a lot of dollars right now, we don't necessarily think of ourselves as being overly rich in terms of the town finances, but we do think you're in good shape. This gentleman, I'm David Rose from Davenport, just walking through where you're the advisor to presenting this comprehensive review. This is the general fund focus primarily, and it is a summary of what we've looked at. So we're going to talk about some things that we've seen. So if we go to page 5, we know our timing here is such that we're, again, trying to be helpful as you deliberate the budget, as Rick and his staff make recommendations and get your input. Obviously, there's been a very strong assessed value growth. I will tell you, having done this now for about 45 years, I don't assume it's always going to continue to be that way. I can remember when Loudoun County dropped 30% in 1 year back in the late 80s, did it again in the early 2000s. So we want to try to make sure, you're going to see a couple of preliminary recommendations that we have, particularly as it relates to fund balances that are a far cry from what might be right for a county or might be right for certain cities. But because this is such a tourist area, an area that is potentially vulnerable to particularly tough weather, we're going to see how we think about this. There's not one size fits all. I just want to point that out. So we know what you do in terms of reassessment. We understand the 25 fiscal year had another roughly 25% increase, and that's going to factor into equivalent pennies and impacts and what have you. But what we want to, again, think about is these are good times, but there is that concern. There is a general cloud nationally. There is a worry about elements of recession. We have the rating agencies that were in just the other day. They're worried about that. Whether it happens or not, who knows? I'm not an economist, and even if I was, I don't think I'd know anything more. But the reality is what I plan for if negative things happen. That's how we think about it. Okay, look at 2 pages here. We did a lot of comparatives. You can see here, population. It's difficult to compare you to others, but we try to some degree. Again, the pure median, if you look at medians, I take it with a grain of salt. I did study statistics for graduate school, so again, there's a lot of ways you can play with statistics, but your pure median is literally 7 times larger than you. So again, take this all with a grain of salt. We tried to some extent to say, well, there's some other, really high-end positive towns, Smithfield, Colonial Beach, again, I'm not sure anything's a really good match, but at least we tried to some extent. Okay, next page, assessed value. Yours is now above and eclipsing $1 billion. At the time we had it, it was basically over 800 million. Once again, you're going to see, what does that mean? It doesn't tell us a lot, but if you go to the next page, I think we start to move into things that really are more relevant for you. Financial trends. What we saw is that for the last 5 years, you've had a solid surplus in the town's finances. Again, in the general fund, you can see your revenues have grown very solidly. And again, at the same time, Expenditures have grown, but they haven't grown as much. We try to break that out into various components. In the bigger book, which we did not hand out, we've got all the breakout of all that. So again, this is just knowing that you've got a busy night, and there's only so much bandwidth, I think, to listen to me babble on. But the upshot is, financially, you've been solidly run. It appears that your 25 audit shows that you had a surplus of about $500,000 in the general fund. So again, coming to all of this from a position of a solid position. Okay. Next page, in terms of the revenue trends, you can see some of the specifics of that. And what we've also seen, again, is the local taxes. They have moved up considerably between hotels, motel taxes, restaurants, BPOL, the other things. You can see to the right-hand side how that's all moved. Once again, I feel like we need to think about this as not continuing in that trend. I think that's, again, you can get wrapped up in that, but I don't want to do that. So I want to be a little bit more cautious, if you would. Some of the recommendations we'll ultimately make, some tonight, but so following this, are going to be cognizant of that. So, said a different way, while you may have had and have $500,000 of surplus, I'm going to be thinking about some of your future capital needs and how to take care of them as if you don't have a surplus. That's the way we're going to think about it. You can do whatever you want, just me recommending not to think about that as being a permanent. I'd rather think about that as more of a cushion than, than something we can bank on, no pun intended. Okay, so page 10 here is probably the first big recommendation and takeaway that we have, and that is this. On the left-hand side, you can see historically the town had a recommended policy of historical reserves. Those are what we mean basically not encumbered by anything. They're not set for anything, and that was at 20%. Our recommendation is 125%. So it's not as if we're tweaking that. We're looking at that a whole new way. If you look at the right-hand side, of course, because you've got that 15 million in there, that skewers it. But we know part of the reason Rick and your staff and you accepted us to help you is that that is really something that's there for the moment. No one expects it to be there permanently because your camp status is you have 10, 12 plus $1 million of needs. And we want to make sure with this one-time money and some other dollars that you're very smart about how you think about this. So, that said, if we have 125% policy, you'll notice Smithfield is above that. We work with Smithfield. You'll notice Middleburg is at 113. They're really actually a little greater than that. Their policy is at 125%. They do meet that. They break that into a couple components. And what you have in common with Smithfield and Middleburg is both of you are really excellent tourist towns. People go to your places. Middleburg, we put that 125 in literally 3 months before COVID hit. And we said that because that town was reliant on basically the Salamander, which is Sheila Johnson's incredible facility. It's the best thing they ever did. That facility basically closed down for 4 months. That was essentially, at the time, 65% of the real estate value of the entire town was her facility. So it was a smart thing that we did. We see you as well trying to get to that number, and you'll see on the next page.
Before you go there, can you define general funds? We have a general fund, we have capital funds, we have a harbor fund. And is capital included in the general fund? Because we've been capturing a designated reserve there. So how is that reflected?
So to answer your question, go to page 8. So on page 8, You can see there what we're talking about. Those various expenditures that come together to go to around $3.5 million, that's really what we're talking about benchmarking it against.
All right, so we see capital projects there for operating expenditures, and I'm assuming that includes harbor expenditures.
I could check, and I don't remember particularly if it does, but we can get all the various pieces. But what we're looking at is expenditures that are not one-time in nature. In other words, if there's elements, you help me, Rick, if there's elements of the harbor fund that are operationally
Yeah,
driven,
well, we do.
that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
But what we're not talking about is if, for example, let's go to, having a replacement facility of the town hall, that's not what we mean to set it up so that, for example, in a given year, you may spend or allocate, what would be the number we've had is $6.5 million. That wouldn't be the denominator. We wouldn't incorporate that.
Yeah, but our harbor is also treated as it's a separate entity, it's like its own business.
Yeah, but I don't think officially it's an enterprise zone, right?
It's not
We
enterprise.
keep, a fund, but we keep it separate funding wise, and that's what I just want to make sure when we talk about general fund, what is envisioned as the inclusion there.
That's a neat, what's that? Yeah, harbor's not included on that. So again, we can get you the exact specifics, but it tends to be, when we say the general fund, we're separating it from now, of course, no longer the enterprise fund, the utilities. That would be separate as well, when we have that.
Yeah.
It's really the day in and day out operations of the town and all the various salaries and whatever.
Okay?
So-
Harbor should be included in that too.
That's
That is Dave Becker.
No, but it's a separate fund, it's supposed to be self-reliant.
I agree, but when we set up these policies on percentages, they need to
So what we'll
know.
do,
That's what I'm
I don't
trying to
want you to,
Yeah.
Councilman,
Okay.
I don't want you to sweat
That's right.
what is in it or out, what we will do by all means
Oh, he's
is
sweating.
make, no, but that's what I'm saying. We'll provide you our recommendation as to what would be counted, and then you can decide, well, I want something else as well. Because what we're actually gonna recommend here on the next page, I thought you actually were getting to that, is on page 11, we're recommending in effect a two-part policy when it comes to this reserve. One is 5 million or 125% of that general fund operating expenditures. But on top of that, the second part is we're also recommending $1 million for a revenue enterprise stabilization fund. Why is that? Because selfishly, we'd like to try to see you keep that 5 million plus and really never tap into that, but have that $1 million, and that could be adjusted over time as well, but that $1 million could be, if that $500,000 that you seem to have, or just say a surplus, if that dries up, that $1 million can be tapped into. But at the same time, we want to try to make sure that we're cognizant of that and we're building that back up. What we haven't given you is, again, in-depth, how to build it back up, the time frame. That's subsequent to some of these discussions.
What's our rainy date? It's basically a rainy date fund, correct? Similar to that? Don't we-
So that's what we're talking about, the rainy day, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we had it, what do we
Well-
have in that? I mean, I don't know what the number is, but we set it up and increased it.
Well, we have a
over the years.
policy, and that was one of my questions, we have policy on contingency reserves.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you've got a 20% policy.
yeah.
Okay, so right now, because of the sale, the dollars that are going in, that Marion has, it's highly skewed, that's the whole point.
Yeah, yeah.
So effectively, I don't even think about, other than what I said earlier, your policy at 20%, so if you talk to a typical auditor of local governments, they just generally would say, well, you kind of want to have about 10 to 20%. Well, for you, that is so sort of not even close to being appropriate in our view as your advisor, because of the nature of the town and the size and all the other things. So having said that, for me, it's not so much 20%, it's got to be way past that. And that's why I said, it's not just a percentage, it's a minimum 5 million or more. The theory for that is, you know what, if, as the councilwoman said, you're coming from Northern Virginia, if you have if you have a water main break, let's just go with that, make believe, I use that, and you need public works, just because you're a small town, if you get a nice sized break, that could be several $100,000. Well, in Prince William County, that's not going to be a game changer. For you, several $100,000, even if you somehow get insurance or whatever to come back to help, backfill that, no pun intended, it's a big dollar amount. So we don't think of it as one size fits all.
Yeah, did you guys take in consideration the retirement community growing?
Absolutely.
Very good.
So we take into consideration the kind of community it is, the nature of the community, what type of risk you're at environmentally, what type of risk you are with, again, the concept, when it came to COVID, we had no sense of COVID. What we had sense was if Sheila's facility had fire, even though she would rebuild it or could rebuild it, that meant nobody was going to, or a lot of people weren't going to be using that. The whole valuation, all the taxes that would inure to the town were going to dry up for a period of time. Our thinking was 125% would get us a solid year plus. That's how we think about it. Same here for you. We also represent Williamsburg, where my parents were from when they were alive. So when they were there, and over the days, we said, what if you have a really bad season for any number of reasons? So the same thing held true. We try to get a very large percentage of what we'll call in their cases, their lodging and their meals taxes and things in case a whole season gets blown. That was our thinking. Okay. Sorry to talk so much about it, but again, we're just here to give you some sense of all that, and that's guiding us the way we think about this. Okay, next page, page 12. As I said, you have no debt outstanding, paid it off, clean slate, but we do think that it makes sense for any local government to have debt in the future as a tool and not a crutch. I like to use it. Well, I went to Kenyon as an undergraduate, got my graduate degree at Harvard. Harvard just borrowed $700 million yesterday. $700 million, and yet our endowment is over $60 billion. It's a tool. It's not a crutch. We don't need the money, but it's a way to use it smartly versus to say, let's just pay out of the, out of the elements of endowment that are not restricted. So with that said, just wanted to give you a sense of one ratio called debt to assessed value. What you see here, we're going to recommend something possibly as high as 2% of the overall assessed value of the town. Doesn't make it right or wrong. You can see here Middleburg is about 2.3%. Their policy is slightly higher. Again, Lexington, which is again a very nice tourist town, as well as two schools that are there, Washington and VMI, they're at about 3% is the policy. So just to give you a sense of that, once just a sense of, we'll call it white lines on a highway, this is sort of guidelines as well, okay? The next page, though, I think is where it really comes into true dollars. And what we did is we set up for you what your current policy is, even though you're no debt outstanding. What your policy says is that annual debt service, whatever that is, versus your general fund expenditures, that number. And you can see here, what we said was, okay, based upon general fund expenditures, the policy says that no more than 8 cents or 8% of the entire general fund expenditures would go towards debt service. That's your current policy. We think that's too conservative, too limiting in today's day and age. And I like to tell citizens out there, here's the way to think about this in real numbers, because what does these percentages mean? Here's how I think about it. If you're fortunate and you have a home, and a lot of young people or middle-aged people have a mortgage, so typically, if you think about it, you're going to a bank and you get a mortgage, the bank will tell you, we really don't like to see more than about 25 to 27% of your monthly income go towards debt service. That's sort of the guide of what we typically see. Having said that, you're saying we're at 8% of our typical monthly or annual dollars. That's on the low side, particularly for a town of your size and overall. So one of the things I mentioned while they all come together is we like to see a really strong fund balance, really have several millions of dollars sitting with Marion. And on the flip side, we feel a little bit more comfortable having some more debt service relative to the overall budget, to the expenditures. So we suggested thinking about something in a range of 10 to 15%. You'll see in a moment that's not an outlier. And so depending upon whether you amortize something over 20 years or go up to 30 years, and we see that range, that's typically pretty normal, you could see anywhere from $5 to $10 million of debt outstanding. I think the other important point here is we use the 5% planning rate. Right now, just to give you a sense of it, fixed rate for a local government like you are going to be probably in the low 4s, high 3s. This is all tax exempt, that's what we're talking about. So again, I think what we're really saying is we wouldn't want to go past, for the moment, about $10 million of debt outstanding. That would be sort of our limiting factor, if you would, based upon your current overall situation. But again, not deciding that now, but it's something as a sort of a backdrop. So having said that, what Rick asked us to do and look at is, with your camp program, understanding that you've got this potential town hall, or, town council that would be then and there, probably in around $6.5 million. That did not seem to us to be out of the pale of being responsible, particularly. And so we'll talk about that in a few moments. That seems responsible.
What was our debt services before we changed it to 8? Wasn't it like 10 or 12 before?
Well,
I mean, I'm asking you because you were a town manager years ago for a little bit.
We didn't have a policy, but
Yeah.
that was so long ago.
Because we had changed it from, I don't know, if it was 10 or 12 down to 8.
yeah, and there's another point too, though, when you ask, because when we talk about policy here, we're talking about the general fund.
Yeah.
When it came those days, the enterprise fund is looked at differently.
No, I know we had 2 enterprise zones and
Yeah.
a general fund. So
Yeah.
the general fund, we did have, it was the same approach based on the taxable assets, but
Right. And yeah, Bob knows, I've been
but
involved
back,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been involved with y'all over the years, here and there, and making some recommendations, what have you. But again, I think,
Back in the 2000s, not anywhere near where it is
no,
now.
the world, this is a,
Way different.
obviously I'll tell you, you
Yes.
live here, but it's a whole new day.
It's a different game.
What's that?
It's a different game.
It's a different thing, absolutely.
So for these debt service versus expenditures versus assessed value, would you pick one or the other?
Not
Or you
necessarily.
can have both? Because
both.
if I go to the assessed value
Right.
and play with numbers, I can get up to $16 million.
Actually, in today's day and age, you probably get 20 million because you've really hit about the $1 billion mark. Which is why I said that's really a capacity and a theoretical, but this is a practical. You
So
know,
this is the
really
more
what-
limiting. I can have the other and just never
Yeah, but
expect to
the reason
apply.
why you want both, is that when investors like, again, remember, I'm not selling you anything, I'm never going to be providing that $6.5 million. My goal is to help you try to procure that most strategically, to look at banks and brokerages. We don't compete with those folks. We don't compete with the state programs that are out there to help local governments. We're, again, your fiduciaries. So that said, the reason I say that is they like to see a debt to assessed value.
Okay,
policy.
okay.
Because who's to say that at some point you may broach this
Just
debt service to
swing
expenditure.
either way. Yeah, okay.
So it's a little more belt and suspenders, think of it that way, okay? But you're absolutely right. One is much more of a limiting, and the really, because let's face it, I liken the debt service, the first policy before the debt service here, to being like a credit card company. just because they tell you you could spend and have, go with me, $5,000 or $10,000, that may be what they say you can do, but try paying for it. You know, it's maybe impossible, that's where people get in trouble. So we want to make sure we have both of those, if you would, to be looked at as provided, okay? But we're not asking to make a decision tonight, but I just want you to understand that, for example, we represent Virginia Beach. We would not recommend on that size of a government in their situation that they go up to 15%. That's too much, okay? That is too much for them. We think for them, they're in the 10, 11% at max, okay? So again, and they've got wherewithal, but again, it's not apples to apples. So, okay. So the next page, you can sort of see here on page 14, we give you that policy range, and you can see Leesburg, for example, I work with them, I've worked with them for 30 years. They are AAA local government. That means they have the highest ratings possible. They've got a lot of reserves. They're in really good shape, but they also are not afraid to have a solid amount of debt service. And they've always, when I started working with them, they were at one time upwards of about 26% of their budget. Sounded like a mortgage in that was there. But over time it's come down, but it's still, again, in the double digits. But they're able to very easily pay for that. And they also have lots of reserves. So one
Still
more
keeps
thing.
them within that 3% on your other side.
That's right. So they're in very good shape. The other thing I didn't point out, but I would, Leesburg has, again, a lot of debt. They have an entire 1 year's worth of debt service as a policy, aside from that rainy day fund, which is very strong. So they've got a lot of dollars sitting, earning interest that helps the general fund. So, and this is again the general fund only. They happen to have a very solid, successful enterprise fund for water and sewer. Okay, so just get a sense of all this. All right. So let's go to page 15. We have begun reviewing what we'll call your camp, what we call your camp. As I said, it's also double digits. It's 11, 12 plus $1 million. My sense is over time it only goes up. It doesn't go up and then go down. Things get more expensive. And one of those big components is that municipal building. And the number we used was provided to us. That may be not exact. But we also know, as we said, you've got $5 or so million over and above that. So the whole key here is how do we look at those 15 million plus other dollars you've got and look at these needs that you've got over time, because you're never going to sell another facility or another enterprise fund. It's a one and done, there you are. So we started to think about all this and have some suggestions and some thoughts. So again, one of those precursors to all this is having some policies in the debt area to help be some guidelines. Okay, next page, if you would. So what we're recommending preliminarily is to look at doing a combination over time of both debt and cash as it comes to taking care of that roughly $12 million. Having said that, what we think, because the town hall will be a long-lived asset, should last for decades, but will need renovation and improvement probably every 20 years, certainly, given the way technology is what we're recommending preliminarily, we started talking to your staff about this, was to consider keeping your powder dry with regard to all the cash for the moment, and think about doing what we call an interim financing, upwards of about 5 years at about $6.5 million. The idea would be you move forward as you have to move forward with that project, but instead of all of a sudden immediately locking into permanent financing, whether it's 20 years, 25, 30, whatever you decide, we're recommending setting up something of a 5-year nature and say to ourselves, let's see what happens here over the next several years as things maybe slow down, as we think that trajectory of, the various local option taxes are gonna slow down their growth. Let's see what happens as it relates to just the overall economy and the next every 2-year cycle with regard to your assessed values. And at the same time, let's see what that cushion, which again was $500,000 in 2025, maybe it dries up in 2026. We'll see, maybe it gets a little better, but we'd like to set ourselves in a position where you continue to earn the maximum amount of money with that $6.5 million rather than just spend it. And so basically the treasurer, and she can speak for herself here, but if it's set up properly in terms of knowing she doesn't have to draw that down quickly, probably can earn an interest rate with the state programs at an interest rate that's going to be equal, if not better, than the interim borrowing rate that we would set up. So I'll give you specifics. We took in bids last week for Smithfield. They are also going to do a town hall. It's going to be a little bit more of a complex. We are doing a $7.1 million interim borrowing. We had 6 different bids. We looked at short-term money, long-term money. We're going to recommend on Tuesday night to town council, they do a 5-year interim financing, and that fixed rate of the bank provided them is sub 4%, fixed for 5 years, prepayable at any time with no penalty. So they've got maximum flexibility. The treasurer in that instance can continue to hold on to those monies and earn something akin to that, especially through the state programs, which is called the State Local Government Investment Pool, very well known. And at the same time, when they can see how things are shaking out, they can use some of their surpluses. They may be selling some properties. Sounds familiar? You may be selling maybe this civic center, civic whatever process, to then pay down some things. But we're keeping ourselves flexible. They're in very good shape. They've got very good reserves. They certainly could just go pay for it. We don't recommend that. Staff has agreed to that, working, and so that's where we're moving in that direction. It's not like we always recommend that, but with all the moving pieces, with you folks just literally have gotten that $15 million last May. To me, that's just yesterday. I think it's better to keep the powder dry. That would be our recommendation as it relates to this particular project.
Is it a 5-year term also amortized over 5 years?
So interesting. It's interest only, but the way it's set up, if they want to start amortizing in a given year, they say they have a very good year, and they say, you know what, we want to put $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, they can do that. They don't want to do that, they don't have to do that.
Okay, so
It's
it's
a
interest
very-
only 5 years, then balloons. Then balloons at the.
That's right, exactly. So the idea is, they're sitting on that $6.5 million, you're sitting on that $6.5 million. It's just, you're not at any disadvantage. But again, you've got to do this project. I'm not telling you that, but if y'all have made a decision, you've got to do this project. My focus is, all right, what if the economy hits the skids? What if there's some problems? I'd rather have, my mindset is, and I will say this, cash is king. That's how we look at it. Rather be sitting on $6.5 million strategically invested and knowing that you've got a long-lived asset, and then you can decide, even before 5 years, like I said, you can decide 1 year from now, 2 years from now, I want to do something. Now, I'm not suggesting we'll absolutely get the same terms and conditions as Smithfield, but I think we will do nicely, given the way you've been operating, the way you're thinking about this, and the fact that you're sitting on those dollars. That gives banks and brokerages, state programs, a lot of comfort. So that's how we think about this, okay? So, and the other thing is too, so you might decide, okay, you know what? I don't have anything to offset that. Let's say you sell this facility and the dollars go for other purposes or what have you. Okay, fine. But the other thing this gives you the opportunity to do, and I'll talk about it in a minute, is how do you potentially pay for the permanent financing of this? We're going to address that in a couple seconds. So, okay. So if you go to page 17, We made some general assumptions. One of those is that the interest rate, no matter what, is at 5%. As I said, purposely want to go on the high side. That's the way to do it. I will tell you, I'm showing my age, when I started in the business back in 1982, around that period of time, you couldn't get single digits for tax exempt. It was, we borrowed at 14 and 15%. You know, it's crazy, so.
Went into the early 90s too, so.
And that was the early 80s, so. Anyway, so for me, when I say 5% on the high end, I kind of scratch my head a little bit, but, you know, I think we'll be all right. So if we look at 5%, $6.5 million is borrowed, it's going to be roughly about $350,000 a year, give or take. And so you're going to have to come up with those dollars, and I'm going to get to that in a few moments. I'm assuming, that, don't they say, oh, don't assume, but I'm purposely doing this on the conservative side. I'm assuming that we don't have that $350,000 right now. We may, and that's the good news here. You may in terms of interest earnings and availability, but I'm purposely taking the tack that when you decide to move forward, that we may have to come up with a whole new series of revenue sources to get the 350. And then ultimately, on a permanent financing when it kicks in, assuming nothing pays it down, probably around $500,000. So you're going to see in a few moments some of the big drivers that we think about that could potentially be there for you over time. Okay, so let's go to page 18 and show you what we did. So we said to ourselves, okay, let's just go right to the idea that the town would ultimately need almost $500,000 a year to take care of this long-term indebtedness. Obviously, you need less than that in the short term, but we said, what does that come to? How to think about that? So the way to think about that is a couple different examples. If you were to look at, I'm not suggesting this, but if you were to say, okay, we need to come up with $475,000, what is that if it was all on real estate? Not recommending it, but it's all on real estate. That's a little over 4 pennies. That's before the revalve, okay? So with revalve, it's probably going to be about 3.5 pennies if you think about it, okay? Then we said, what if it's tied to only the meals tax? You said, you know what, just want to look at meals tax. Well, that's almost a 3% jump in your meals tax. It's a big jump from where you are now. Again, not recommending it, but that's about every penny in meals tax or percent, it's about $150,000, give or take, okay? Similarly, transit occupancy tax, also almost the same. It's about $150,000 per 1%, if you would. So, and then by the way, on the real estate, it was around a little over 100,000. Probably with the revalve, it's probably close to maybe 130, 140,000 per penny. So we said to ourselves, okay, let's just keep that in the back of our minds that inevitably, and not that you can't say there's not other ways to get there, but these were 3 big drivers that had us thinking about when we look at the town. Some of the advantages, of course, to the last 2 is that to a large degree, those that are paying for the meals and paying for the transit occupancy are not residents of the town. It's going to be from outsiders. The other thing we did, and we've got some comparatives, is that we found, we did this for Virginia Beach, we did a deep dive into what we'll call beach and ocean communities. Most folks don't ever think about and look at what the transit occupancy tax is when it comes time to, are they going to go to Cape Charles, are they going to go to Ocean City? They almost never look at, even the tour companies don't look at, well, it's this versus that. And we looked at that up and down the entire East Coast when we did this for Virginia Beach a couple of years ago, tied into the Virginia Aquarium, because they get some of their dollars from some special dollars. So if you always want that, I don't have that here, we'd certainly provide that. So a couple things here. Interestingly enough, you can see here that range of, on the left-hand side, debt service versus expenditures. You can see here that it doesn't fully take up all of the weight in the room if you're at 15%, but if you're at 10%, you're right hovering at sort of, you're kind of capped out. So again, I think a range works. Your debt to assessed value, as one of your council members said, you can still see you're a far cry from 2.5%, something like 2% is still a far cry. Just wanted you to see that. Okay. So page 19, what we also then did was to say to ourselves, okay, your citizens, nobody likes taxes, and we said, fine, your Cape Charles tax we had was a little under 15 cents for you. You couple that with Northampton at almost 70 cents, and collectively, you can see there you're a little over 83 cents effectively. Then you look at Northampton with an ANCOP, while the town may be at 24 cents, the county itself, we work with Accomack as well, I've worked with Mike for decades. There, again, they've got a broader, as you know, a much broader base of business and what have you, wealthier county, they're at 53 cents. So they're basically 15 cents below where we are in Northampton. Kind of put those two pieces together, and so you're on the higher side when you look here on the shore. Then you compare it, though, to someone like Colonial Beach, which is almost an outlier, and we work with those folks as well in Westmoreland County. And yeah, they're at $1.20. They're really the other end. But even some other places you can see here that are desirable places. You've mentioned coming from Northern Virginia. You can look at Herndon, Vienna's, you know, they're on the high side. They're considerable. So I don't really want to do too much, if at all, but with the reval that's going to come, if you were to totally equalize, you're going to go back into the high 60s, probably. And so again, there could be the potential for 1 or 2 pennies perhaps for capital that could help go a long way towards taking care of that roughly 475. At the same time, if you go to meals tax on page 20,
It'd be nice if the county could do it.
yes,
They're going up.
yeah, I know that. I don't work day in, day out with the county, but my colleagues do. And,
They're going up.
so, as you look at the meals tax, again, you're very competitive. Could you move a half a cent or a penny? Can you do that away from, again, I stay away from politics. That's why nobody's electing me to run for anything. I get all that. But you can see here that a half a penny is probably worth $75,000, $80,000 and growing. A whole penny is probably 150, 160. That also can chip towards this overall need. And again, all of this is under the premise that you don't have free and available cash flow, which you may have, which is why I'm suggesting that if you do interim financing, you basically put less burden on having to make these kind of decisions in the next year or two. You build yourself some time to make those decisions down the road.
There's your outfall.
Okay. Then your last thing is lodging tax. You really are in a very competitive position. Collectively, between the county, the town, 6%. Again, to a large degree, statewide, you really see it as it's more than that. And that is a very, I never was an economist, but that's a very, I would say, elastic. I mean, it doesn't seem to, again, trip anybody in terms of losing lodging if they go up by 1 or 2 percentage points. Not to say people aren't going to start screaming at me and you indirectly because I say that. But again, I'm here just to give you a sense of where others are and not do the political side of it. So again, it could be a combination of those things. It could be the fact that if with Rick's budget and next couple of years' budgets and Marion's looking at, you know, reserves, I mean, sort of dollars coming off the reserves, you may find that you have some bandwidth to take care of debt service. But I do think what we want to do going forward is to have a good balance of debt and equity. At the same time, if we do have debt, which I recommend, we have a funding source that's continual and sustainable every year. And right now, you don't have any debt, so you don't need that, which I think you want to do that. That's the smart way to kind of look at this. So that's me talking. Lastly, you can see here, I gave you a little condensed version of that East Coast beach that I mentioned. And you can see here where Virginia Beach is, Norfolk, Myrtle Beach, Outer Banks, Ocean City, again, all pretty much kind of where you are, if not more. So, and then on top of that, what's interesting, we didn't even bother to show, we didn't even bother to show New Jersey, which has some, and New York and those places, and Massachusetts, all the northern states. I didn't show them because then they throw on these other charges that just blow it out of the water when it comes to really the effective cost to go and spend a hotel night for a vacation and all that. So lastly, page 23, we just wanted to, again, start this dialogue tonight. We know you're going to be implementing your budget shortly. You've got to do that. Look to see what that looks like, to get a sense of all that. We understand bids are coming back roughly by the end of the fiscal year. And then the thinking would be, after that, really start to hone in on some financing plans, meaning how to really look at this, how to think about some policies, how to look at structure to maybe take care of all of that. And that really would occur, as we say, the balance of several months later, not happening in the next month or two after the summer, but really to give yourself the time so that as you go into the 28th fiscal year budget, you got a lot of things pulled together. Rick will have gotten the exposure to you and you and him with regard to budgets and all of that. So that's our thinking. I've talked a lot. Appreciate opportunity and happy to answer some questions. One last thing, Mayor, if y'all have certain questions, we typically always say just go through the town manager and you can filter those so that anything that we answer, everybody gets it at the same time as opposed to one-off, discussions. We stay away from that policy-wise as our folks do.
So you're saying in the balance of 2027, when we start looking at finances, we then will home in on policy?
Fiscal year.
Yeah, only because, your recommendation anywhere between 10 to 15%, you maybe refine it into, well, we think it's more, 12.
Well, and I think, again, what I see hoping for is that you get a bid that you like and one that's acceptable to you. And if it is, what I've hopefully shown for the moment is that you can feel comfortable absorbing a $6.5 million interim financing, which would happen, most likely, I would think would happen come summer into fall. We would get that going. Have a little bit more information for you on some policies, but you can already see here sort of the white lines, if you will. That's why it's set up this way for you. But we're not suggesting it's absolutes. But we don't want to have you say, you know what, I don't want you to go one of two ways. I don't want you to say, you know what, we can take care of that $6.5 million, we got a lot of dollars. I don't want you to get feeling so full of yourself. On the flip side, I also
Not
don't.
that I would, but.
No, I know, I'm talking about you personally, I'm talking about the, I'm about my council. I don't want you all to feel, this is the council. I don't want you to feel full of yourself because you're sitting on a bunch of dollars, because you got commitments for those dollars over time, and I suspect there'll be more than the 12 million or so that have been identified. On the flip side, I also don't want you to say, well, we have no money, or we can't make this commitment, we have no wherewithal. I think you do have the wherewithal. I think there is a happy medium in all this. So that's why we're here to start to discuss this, and that's hopefully helpful.
So
So in these short-term funds coming in, when the bids come in, and we get whatever number it is and go out for financing, is it the same kind of financing it is for just a commercial build as well as it is for a municipality, to where it's still gonna be paid out as the build goes, or is it gonna come in as a lump sum?
Yeah, it's
So-
different.
And could
Yeah,
we make money on the money that's sitting there while the building's being built?
Exactly. So typically, what you'll find is, again, all relative to size, relative to the kind of complexity of local governments, what have you. In the case of Leesburg, for example, we did for their town and police facility, we did a drawdown line of credit. So we did 30 million, and we drew it down, and we had fixed rate, we had a fixed rate in terms of the actual debt service, the actual interest rate, okay? Here, I don't think we're gonna get that. I would recommend instead that we draw down the entire, let's say, 6.5 million. We immediately, as that money is being spent, what's not being spent, we reinvest it automatically, what we call the SNAP program, which is the State Non-Arbitrage Program that's done by the state treasurer here in Virginia. It's a very, very good program. Money's available within 30 hours, no penalty. You can't lose money there, meaning you're not in a money market, you're not, it's every single day that you have dollars there, you earn a sliver of interest. That's how it works. It's not like it's not like you and I that might have and be in a money market where you can lose money or something like that. It's a different kind of program. We cannot use that as individuals. It's only Virginia local governments that are able to access that. Just to give you a sense, SNAP's been around about 40 years. They manage about, give or take, 12 to 14 billion dollars of borrowed local government money through the state. So it's a really good program. They invest only and exclusively in federal government, treasuries, agencies, things of that nature. There's no speculation, there's no stocks in it, nothing like that. They're not allowed. Legislature reviews the program, has to go through the state legislature. So it's all administered by the state treasurer. Can't get a better program. North Carolina has the North Carolina Trust, similar kind of program. So feel very good about that. So that's how I would think about this. Don't have to make that decision now. But I do think we are moving towards that. And again, the nice thing about when you're getting the bids is you're going to be getting those bids at a time when your budget's going to be done. And so you're going to have a handle on how 27 looks. So, I don't know if you, Bob, I know you're, if you want to say anything because you've had such a history of and been so helpful to us.
As soon as I get done with sidewalks, I'll get the IFB out, so. But it should get, the IFB will be out next week. Next week or the week after. So I think the timing is just as they described.
Is there any drawback for bonds? Like posting a bond to fund the building for the municipality?
When you say drop,
I mean, issue a bond.
so
for-
this is,
for the
this,
money.
this is not, I mean, technically, this is considered a note.
Yeah.
5 years or less, we call them notes. Past 5 years, we consider them bonds. It's just a loan, it's all the same.
Permanent finance would be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if there.
For the permit?
For issuing, I just didn't know if the rates were any different, higher or
Oh,
lower.
no. It's really a function of the marketplace, their perception of how strong you are as a credit, and the kind of risk they have to build in when they lend you the money. And at the same time, like I said, the fact that you're tax exempt. This is absolutely a tax exempt borrowing, whereas you and I
Yeah,
want to purchase, we're taxable. We don't even call it that, we just say we go, like construction loans are just by their nature taxable. And so it's a different marketplace. The buyers and the investors are very different. Yeah. Banks, I would think we would put this out to banks. We typically put it out to lots of them. We got 6 bids, which is a very good number. In Smithfield, we have banks as local as Town Bank, and we had JP Morgan Chase, the largest bank in America. Yeah, national and local as the sort of the you know, the bookends. So you can, and that's, you get all sorts of different things.
All spend the same in here.
But the difference is why, so it's interesting, so why JP Morgan Chase is willing to lend you money at, let's say, go with me, in the 4s, yet when you go to them for a mortgage, even if you're a great credit, you're in the 6s, is because they don't get the ability to write off your loan the way they do when they loan to a not-for-profit or a tax exempt. They get this thing called bank qualification, which they can't get with individuals. So from their perspective as well, the way they book that into their own, we call it, their assets and liabilities is different than the way they book a mortgage. So we're not dealing with the mortgage side of JP Morgan Chase. And all these banks, for that matter.
Right.
Rick, is there anything, Mary, you folks?
Do you guys have any other questions?
No, it's been great.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. This is very good.
Very,
We do too.
Well, you got a really good staff. Listen, your staff works hard, and they really do. We found them to be just very, very helpful, and they, again, it's just a lot of good folks. Katie back there as well, who I used to work with over the years, and she was here, so. We appreciate it, Bob as well, as like I said. So, nothing to do tonight other than, on our side, just to have these things. I'm sure you'll have some questions. We expect that, and, kind of, we'll talk.
And you also have reminded you that this is not a one-time thing. That they really want to walk us through these things, and they'll be back, and we'll also keep them posted as we move along the process too. So.
Yeah. And typically, like I'll give you an example. Next Saturday, I'll be doing what they call an advance. I'll be going to an advance for a city that I've been doing now for 20 years. They typically hold that, and we give them an update, and we talk about what's changed, and some suggestions, and they have projects and things that come about. So this is the kind of thing we enjoy doing. I get it. We get paid for it. I realize that. But in fairness, we're going to be viewed as an extension of your staff, and that's how we think about this stuff. So, I want to make sure.
You don't have to go into any kind of debt to pay for their services.
No.
There you go. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
It
Mayor.
was a great presentation.
Okay. And again, if anybody wants, I didn't get extra copies, but all meetings, and,
Great. Thank you so
I
much.
assume that you help us facilitate shopping for the vet.
Yes, absolutely,
As
yes.
well, that's
Yeah,
part of
we do, but again, we don't provide it, that'd be a conflict of interest. So, and again, we don't, even though I've suggested that we really think on interim financing, that doesn't mean that we can't, just like we did in Smithfield, also ask for permanent financing, longer term financing. And then we also took it a step further there and compared it to the state program, VRA, which is the Virginia Resource Authority, which I was part of starting it back in 1983 and 4. So it's something that, again, it's a program that the state runs, it's well run, but it just didn't make sense for Smithfield. But other things, they do work to make sense. So, okay, thank you.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Who wants to lead it off?
All right.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So council, I am excited about this opportunity that we can start the first iteration of our fiscal year 26 budget. Just want to say a couple things before we actually dive into it. My staff and I have worked really hard the last several weeks, having lots and lots of meetings going over this. And as you know, those who've been involved in budgets, it is a process. We'll look at this probably several times before we come up with something that we agree upon and approve. But in the meantime, what we have before us is the best we could produce by Friday. and we worked really, really hard, hours and hours. We have since found mistakes. We have Also submitted and had some counsel, a professional nuclear engineer look over this as well, and found more mistakes and found other things for us to address tonight, so I'm sure we will hear some of these. But we are more prepared than we were ever, and so in my experience, shortly just being here, it's been an amazing ride. You know, we've had almost a year. I've seen when John came in, and I was part of the budget process last year. Marion's new, and she's learning her role as well as treasurer. Thank goodness we have Adrian to give us guidance of how this is all kept in records, in policy standards and things like that. And I just want to say how proud I am of my staff first. We've had so many. Katie has also helped. Jody's been part of it. Bob is. I mean, we have had so many opportunities to work together and to go through this budget. So what you're going to see tonight also is we took to heart CAPE. I know you're going to hear that a lot because we're going to talk about it as much as we can in our council meetings as a guideline for us. And you have a couple of them that are really important. Community engagement. We did a survey. We've heard from the community of things that are important. We have, we believe in accountability, that what we say we're going to do, we're going to do. We believe it's important for the public to hear what our budget is and how we've taken to heart and even our E, that we have been excellent. We have tried our best to refine and make this budget better. So you'll see that it's actually a little different than what we had last year. And in that we have broken out, we think, categories that better fit and suit certain things as opposed to larger accounts, town manager account having 4 pages. So we've kind of reoriented the budget to be a better readable document that's also transparent. And you'll notice that there's lots of notes so that anybody can pick up this budget and at least know the majority of what this is requesting. And even today I found things that still should be more clarified. And so again, this is not a perfect budget. This is a different budget, and we're trying to make this a better budget than we had last year. So that's our goal, is to always improve and do better. So I just wanted to say that before we get into it. This will be a question I'll ask you. I saw how John did it last year, and I've done it differently in the past too, but because this is my first time with you all, I would ask, would you like to go through line by line? Okay, so then,
Wait, I want to.
I'm just asking, we're prepared to go line by line if you want to. We do have notes so that hopefully it's better to understand what this is. So what we could do is,
Rick, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. So, before we jump into that, when are we going to talk about the changes to the strategic plan?
that's good.
Because
So it's not on the agenda tonight,
Okay,
and
that helps guide it should at least help guide some of our budgetary decisions,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yes,
I
no,
don't
agreed.
I agree. This is, all of our staff have gone through to make sure that what was communicated is reflected in this. And so, because of the lack of time, we didn't have time to put it on the budget because, we make sure it's timely. But it is with you today for you to review and make sure you take time, and then we'll put it on the agenda to approve this.
Okay.
So this may change. You may have thoughts that came out and say, no, I don't really like that needs to be shifted. So,
So we should review this on our own and then
yes,
next time we meet,
yes,
is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Well, I think the key for us is appendix B, the priorities, right? Right now, we just have the ones that are working and 1 through whatever, 15. We didn't never go back and say, move
Correct.
7 up to,
Right.
Right. So what we could do is, on our next meeting, we can put that on the agenda, and you'll have a week, 2 weeks to look at this now, and then we'll come back and we can vote on that. Pick the priorities.
Thank you.
Okay? So, why don't we start with the revenues? And I brought all my staff, so we're all here to answer questions about specific, our requests, and if the note is not clear, we'll provide a better explanation of what that is. And since then, I've also I'm prepared to give a little bit of adjustments on some other things after a nuclear engineer has a chance to look at it. All right, so, well, I may call on some of my staff members because I think that they're better prepared and be able to communicate things. So I'd like to ask Marion to start off with some overview thoughts and give some stuff about revenues that, or Adrian one.
Well, we'll start with our taxes, fees, license, and rates. That's the source of our revenues, as well as
Is that
Katie,
this one?
that is, yes.
Oh, okay, well,
Yep. Also, there's a secondary piece to that in a memo from Katie. That has to do with the planning and zoning fee changes. There's some recommended. And Katie, will you speak to those? No, okay, she won't. So, here they are, and this is Katie not speaking, in red ink. She's speaking in red ink, telling us what proposed changes are shown for that. And on this one, we're really not proposing too many changes, other than when it comes to categories of published licenses, taking out some, and then of course, we will be increasing our fees for trash. So we have to put that in there as well.
And I'll just interject if you don't mind, Marion. So the new trash rate is actually gonna have to be, at least if we stick with the current projections in the budget, it would have to be that rate for the entire fiscal year. So we'll update that, for the next version of this as well. The increased trash rate would have to start on 7/1 to cover the sanitation fund expenses. Thank you.
All right, did you all have any questions about any of the revenue sources contained in these? All right, how about any of the real property tax or personal property tax
Yeah,
revenues?
so my question that I had sent to you guys before was, what was our actual real property tax bill? We had a budget of 1.6, what was actually billed?
So what was actually billed, Paul, was a little over 1.7 million.
Can you give me the exact number, please?
Yeah, it's
Can you
1,700,000.
tell me where we're writing this in?
No, it's on the first page on real property tax on 2025.
Thank you.
$1,739,450.
Wait, start, say, where?
On this one.
All right, so, all right,
Yes. that's right.
real property tax,
Uh-huh,
we had budgeted for fiscal year 26, 1.6 million.
yes, I see.
Okay, but that was a target. I want to know what our actual bill was, and we billed another 100,000
plus.
before, in addition to that.
Got it.
So my question then is, as of March 12th, we have 1.6 that we received, and we're projecting 15 left over. Does that change as to what you expect to have left over?
So you mean,
Right now, I have 1.7 actual bill,
right,
and I've got 1.6.
What's your collection rate? That's just.
Yeah, are we gonna collect more?
the collection rate has historically been around 98 or 97%.
Okay, and all I'm asking is, with our higher billing rate, do I really look at 15,000, or is it gonna be something higher than that? Or am I expecting more people to pay by June 30th?
So, we are expecting more people to pay by June 30th.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, or not, and it doesn't necessarily have to be by June 30th, in fact, by the end of August.
Whatever rolls
So-
in,
So
okay.
at some point during the summer, we're expecting to send a delinquent letter, I believe, if that's correct. So we expect to get some collections based on that.
Right,
And I think, you know, the other piece to be aware of is that if a property is delinquent, it very likely may not be collected in the next year. You know, people who don't respond to the delinquent letters may fall behind on their taxes.
yeah, I'm really not too concerned here, because this is once you build it, we'll get it someday. whether it's in this fiscal year or whatever. So I'm just saying the 15,000 may change depending on what our actual is at some point in time.
Well, historically, that's not how we've budgeted for these.
Yeah, I'm
prior
saying I'm not relying on historic, I'm just asking specifics, and that's where we never talk about what our actual billing rate was. And it happened to be $100,000 higher than what we budgeted.
Correct.
Adrian, can you repeat the full levy again? I did have my pen ready.
The full levy,
1.7?
yeah, 1.739450. So are you asking, Paul, if we're gonna reassess that budgeted 15,000?
Yes, that's all I'm asking.
We can, if you would like us to. I mean, normally we wouldn't,
Well,
but,
I'd say use your latest information next time we meet, you know, if you've got some more actuals coming in, update it.
okay.
That's all I'm saying. Otherwise, I got money just floating in here that's not accounted for. Yeah, it's, in the end, it will flow down to our reserves, but we should be knowing what's happening there.
Can I jump back to this one? Sorry, the fee structure. I'm just curious about the, doubling of the fee for new construction from 500 to 1,000, and new construction, well, that's residential, and then commercial from 1,000 to 2,000. What was the justification for that?
Doesn't that go to the fire department?
Where are you? Sorry.
I'm on this big,
Okay.
The yellow
So
section.
you're talking historic district review fees.
Yeah.
So the new construction for building permits is not proposing to change, that's staying. A portion of that goes, as I just heard mentioned, a portion of that goes to the state building code, state building code academy. And yes, a portion of that goes as revenue to your growth factors, the fire companies. But in my world, for the historic district review board, this came about as a discussion in review with the Civic League as we're reviewing the changes to the historic district ordinance and creating a new appendix G that you're gonna see at next week's meeting. They felt that there should be some consideration of different tiers within those fees. So that's what we were trying to do. And again, a lot of this has been building this fee structure over the last 5 years since I came on with the town, because you really didn't have most of these fees in my department at all. So we have recognized that actually the review associated with new residential construction, a brand new home, takes a bit more work than you would expect.
okay.
So we felt we should separate out those fee structures to give some distinguishing layers between them.
And in some cases, the historic group, like, you know, myself and others, we did look at other panels.
Okay.
It's all over the place, but this is what we,
Correct, and we
That's
did, that was part of what I did for the town, is I have a comparison communities that we use that have historic districts, that are tourist communities, that are similar in population size, and all the parameters that get me to my comp communities. We did look at their rate structures, and so again, we don't think we are out of line where other communities are posing their fees.
That's great. Thank you.
so on the real property tax for 26, right now, we're essentially using what we had originally budgeted. And I guess my question would be, should it be what we had billed? Right now, we're showing for fiscal year 27, 1.6, should it be 1.7? Now, assuming equalization occurs, right? Assessments have gone up, tax rate on this line item should go down, such that we have a flat, right? Unless we change the tax rate, which I'm not gonna propose, but we should have the same amount that we had issued billing wise, right, 1.7.
I'm not sure if I'm following.
So on the line, underneath the 26, or under the 25, where it's actually the build, which you told us now is 1.73 and change. Why over the 27 proposed budget, do we not have 1.73 and change, or rounded to whatever number you want,
In the,
as opposed to 1.618751?
Right.
Why would it not be the build amount in that column?
so I believe that is because, of the collection rate, which is not 100%. So I don't know if that's exactly, 97 or 98% of that other number, but, I think this was kind of the biggest thing that we left open in the budget as a placeholder because we know that we are going to get a new assessment from the county shortly. There's gonna be new construction in addition to the
All right, you
equalization.
should have gotten a ready assessment from the county, right? You should have gotten real estate assessments. We all got our bills.
No, we got
Not
the
bills,
assessment,
we
we
got
got
the
the
assessment.
The
assessment.
assessment, that's what I'm saying, you got the,
We won't get our tax books until the end of September-ish.
no, we all just got, in fact, they just publicized that Cape Charles went up by 6.6%
On an average.
on an average.
No, we don't get tax books, but when it's time for us to bill for taxes.
So you only get them once they set the rate as well, you don't get what we get.
You should get a reassessment.
Yeah, you should get a reassessment.
Months.
Right.
Well, we don't have that.
So can we just, I think, Paul, would the answer be just instead of the placeholder seemingly being a low ball, shouldn't it be more reflective of what the actuals were for 25? Is that a little bit more sufficient?
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
should be at least the 1.7.
Right,
be
because
at
even
least-
at the one,
97% is 1.6819.
yeah, exactly, 98% is 1704. I mean, that way, I think then we're not lowballing ourselves.
But then that also
Right?
has no growth, like we built, what, 70 homes?
That's
last
correct,
year?
yeah, but
That's slowed
this is
down.
me jumping in, I'm sorry. I think you guys have underestimated your tax collection for the coming year, because you're right, you don't have any of the new construction showing up in there. I think we put
80.
80 or 82 new
Yeah,
homes
80.
went online so far, that's gonna get captured when the tax book comes out.
So then, can we
That's
at least
last
just?
year's.
Right, at the end
Yeah,
of December.
yeah,
Same
that's,
thing.
this is the thing,
Yeah.
because you're always like.
Then what I'm
fiscal year
hearing is
27, but
we
you
should
do
go
it
at
every
least
year.
to the 1.739.
Yes,
Minimum.
yes.
We can make that change.
And still have it as a placeholder for discussion, depending on what information we receive from the
Yeah,
county.
once we get that.
Okay.
It's gonna be closer to 2 million.
All right, you're done doing that.
It is, for sure. Easy. Yeah.
And, all right, so personal property tax, on 2025, I want to know what was actual bill. We had budget of 115.
So what I have billed for that is $253,393.
Is this why we're having a surplus every year? I mean, if
Well,
so,
it's a target at the budget. That's why we never asked about what is the actual bill. And that's what I'm finally getting to
I
is,
gotcha. But it might be speaking to why we have surplus every year, correct?
yeah, it
Yes.
eventually settles down.
Yes, okay.
But we haven't had a surplus every year.
Right.
Okay.
But is your percentage on personal properties at 97% as well?
But yes.
I gotcha.
Is your percentage on personal properties at 97% as well, or is that a lower
It
percentage?
is a lower percentage.
What percentage on that?
I do not know off the top of my head, but it has been significantly lower.
I'd probably think about 85% of the collection rate in that first year.
So those new cars would be.
All right, so then again, it's the same kind of concept there is, you gotta look at the 20,000, given the fact that we billed 253 and we collected 156. So I need to look at the 20,000 and say, what do we really expect to be left over there? And then at the next year, should it be 253 instead of,
No, it should be 200.
or I don't care, it should be higher than what we have.
It should be 200. Collecting at 80%.
then we will go with 200,000, collecting at 80% of the 252,393.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I would get the treasurer's office to confirm what are you using as a collection percentage in that first year billing and in subsequent years. I'm
Just like
just
Paul said,
spitballing
whether it's
from
an
my
80 or
fire
97, eventually we will get it.
Well, you don't always get it, because the vehicles are harder to chase.
Oh, that's true.
Sorry.
So you want 200,000 budgeted for 2026 personal property taxes?
Yes.
Okay, and Paul, were you requesting an adjustment to the 2025?
Yeah, the forecast, based on what we just talked about, 253 billed and 156 collected. I should have more than $20,000 in there. They need to account for close to $100,000.
No, because this is March.
I mean, I guess, just the reality is that we don't actually expect to collect all of that.
You won't get 100%.
Not, especially not in
Okay.
the next fiscal years.
Okay, but it's something, okay, so it's something less than $100,000 still coming through for 2025. Is it gonna be $20,000? Are we gonna
45,
lose
600.
$80,000?
45,600.
All right, so
Yeah,
Adam's
that's the
proposing
difference between what.
45,600, are we good with that?
That's exactly 20% of what you already billed, and we go 20% minus the 156,719.38. Not to the penny, just rounding it.
You okay with this, Bob?
Oh, you just look for it, so.
I'm through with paving.
Oh, wow.
And you wanted to go line by line, you will never even ask that question again.
So I guess I just, Mark's on first page, I wanted to make a note that, on the very last line of that, I think a note would be helpful that we didn't catch in doing this earlier, but it's just, that's the business license, that's the traditional way that we, when you call business license, but it's also including licenses for STRs, that number is what that is.
Business licenses for STRs.
Yeah. It's both,
It's both.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I will
Okay.
change it. It's in mine, but it just didn't get in yours.
And I think the note that you have above for like golf cart decals, that same note should be with people too, because it's, the revenue's collected, it doesn't come in until like April. Is that, SDR is the same for timing, I don't even know when that.
Shouldn't be anymore, right?
15.
Still gonna be even going forward?
But you'll see hers.
I think so.
I thought that was the whole point, we're gonna actually do it at the beginning of the year for STR. No?
We are, we're collecting money left and right now. Yeah.
No, but I mean, for renewal of the licenses and all that, are we trying to do that for Jan 1, or are we gonna keep it?
Well, we start the SGR, yes, we've opened up as of January 1. You have till April 15th is your actual deadline to apply. Everything after that that comes in, if you didn't as a renewal, it's subject to penalties and interest. And that's on not just STRs, all your business licenses have that regulation.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the STRs, it won't be a late. I would think that they'd want it, because they'd want to get them inspected and everything else, because that doesn't happen until that renewal is paid, correct?
You'd be surprised, we're on April 2nd, and we're far from having 300 plus applications in the system yet.
But that has other things to do with it as well.
No, application,
Oh, application.
not being approved to a license, actually apply.
Okay.
So people, no matter what, you tell them there's going to be penalties and interest, they don't always apply on time.
Okay.
Well, I forgot.
All right,
Your
next
point is
page.
taken on that?
Of course, I have one on this.
All right.
The big impact fees, right now,
Where are you in?
it's basically the big
Page
block,
2, middle.
Okay.
right where your thumb is.
Got it.
So, right now, we've collected for 5 houses this fiscal year. But it's the impact, it's the sewage, I mean, it's the PUD agreement we've had that they create for selling blocks. So, right now, we've collected for 5 houses, I'm assuming, that's the way the number shows up for me. And then we're estimating 45, which is 15 houses.
Yep.
Well, Magnolia already has 16 purchased houses over there. They're all purchased and not.
They are purchased in theory, they have not actually closed,
Correct, but they've been purchased. I'm
but I
just
don't know
saying.
exactly when they're going to closing until they get to full construction and a C of O.
All right, and that's just that particular thing. There's also spec homes. Do we know how many spec homes are over there that haven't sold?
Say that again?
How many spec homes that haven't been sold over there?
At this point, the Bay Creek, sales office has somewhat changed their perspective and focus. And so they are not necessarily moving the spec homes further. There are some that are still available, but they have changed to, align more with the new owner's mission and purpose.
Yeah, they're gonna build and sell, I get that. But I mean, I'm saying, what, like Preserve had left over, there was a couple homes down there that
There are
sold.
some of those still on available for purchase, but they have not sold.
All right,
And they're not
well, there's,
indicating to me for me to count that within the annexation
All right.
fee.
I just think we're a little low there, because I know there's some of those houses that Preserve had built, have been purchased, they haven't settled. And that's just a matter of settling, that's all.
If you followed anything right now, there's been almost no sales activity in the last 3 months
That's correct.
in Big Creek
Mhm.
from the developer. I'm not
From the
talking about
developer,
selling amongst themselves, but from the
No.
developer, there's been no sales activity in 3 months.
All right, well, they've sold some spec houses up by the life center, I know that.
So it hasn't come out of what's in the annexation agreement, which is under BC Dev LLC, or under the Bay Creek. There were 3 corporate names that they were building under still. Most of those got sold to BC Dev, and so BC Dev is the one who inherits to pay us that $3
All right, I'm
million.
just telling you, I'm just, it's gonna be higher than that.
It could be, but I think right now, I'm not even gonna meet the projection we put in this year's budget, which is 120. We've only collected 15,000 for this year.
All right,
So I'm being conservative just because of what the economy is going on right now. And I really am not certain where the real estate market is going for this coming year. And I've talked with the Bay Creek sales office, and this is what they feel comfortable telling me where their sales are going.
So we can leave it and then just reassess mid-year if needed, right?
And yes, you can reassess it mid-year. And again, this is not coming from sales of like Andy's house to somebody else. This is
No,
sales
no.
from the developer.
no, this has to do with the $3,000 that
Yes.
we get per lot, that's
Yes.
it.
Right, that's
I
it.
mean, because you got, it's the same thing we got going on with current land that's already been sold, we're projecting 80 homes to be built, I get that.
Correct.
All right,
All right, anybody else have questions on
Just,
this?
it's just a note that the top tax, we're
Where?
projecting,
Where?
right at the top there, it's an occupant
1500.
tax. We just went up 25,000, and then our meals, we kept it, well, no, we dropped it by 40,000. So just a note, it's flattening out in our projections.
so we get more restaurants. We'll have nothing over the summer.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I just put a note on mine, just so that you're aware that when it comes back out, you'll see a note. Just for those who may or may not know admission taxes, that's like theater tax, that's the putt-putt. So not all people know what that is, but it would be good for the public to know what that means. So I'm gonna put that note on.
As well as the personal property short-term rental tax. It makes it sound like it has something to do with STRs, and it does not. It's kayak rentals, bicycle rentals, those things, for clarification.
And we'll put that note on there too.
I'm already being confused about that.
That probably needs to be named something else.
That's not, that's the state legal name for that tax.
No kidding.
Yes, it is.
Hey, I was confused on it too, even when I went through this, so,
Okay.
but that'll be,
Put bike rentals.
And I noticed we're $16.85
Make it
over
stop.
on the library fees. Can we talk about that? No
stickler.
detail?
All right,
Motion for adjournment?
page 3.
Three quarters down, the dividends and interest payments, line 1750. Adrian, you would
Payments or interest received?
interest for, this is for
1750, is that the?
dividends and interest on investments.
Yes.
we made per our mid-cycle 5,570,666.
Yeah, I've updated that,
Okay.
Paul, that'll be reflected on the next version.
All right.
And in fact, Paul, that's the case with all, everything that you said to me in that list.
Yeah.
I'm going through them one by one if you like, but everything that you called my attention.
No, I have no problems if you just
Update.
acknowledge it's okay.
All right, any other questions on page 3?
Nope.
All right, page 4?
Page 4, the only question I had was revenue. That was the Virginia Port Grant, and I wasn't sure, in the past, we had put this under revenue, and then we transferred it under town manager to the harbor. Right now, it's coming straight into the harbor as revenue. And I don't know if we've changed our way of dealing with that.
So, yeah, it looks at least in the past 2 years, like this is how we've done it, is directly into the harbor.
Directly into the harbor?
It's possible before that, we
All
did
right.
it differently, I'm not sure,
All right,
but
it's an accounting thing.
Probably because we didn't run it then, that's part of why.
When will we know about that grant from Northampton County for the library?
They haven't presented yet their budget for expenses.
But have we gotten it for,
Yes, we've always gotten 30,000,
but it's not in here for this one, is
Yeah,
it?
it is.
30,000 should
Oh,
be.
that, it
Yes.
is.
Yeah, it's in the far right column.
Fourth one.
Right.
Okay, I see.
They just haven't received
We haven't received it yet,
Yeah.
Right.
that's my point. When do we get it?
Next fiscal year.
Print this, can we put the
July.
title of the columns?
We would have gotten 30,000 this year.
That's what I'm trying to say. Actuals
Okay.
as of this year are 0.
Okay, it's a good question.
Thank you. Thank you. Paul agreed that my question was good. Don't worry.
You needed that validation, right?
Thank,
So
oh, yes,
anyway,
I
did
live
you-
for
did you
Paul's
get that
validation.
under the Northampton
Now you're taking my thunder.
County Library?
No,
You're dragging this out, let's go.
Oh, dragging out, okay, yes. The Northampton County Library, it doesn't look like we have received it yet for this fiscal year. When do we get that?
I believe I was told, it may even be in, okay, so it looks like we've actually received that check, it just hasn't been posted to our.
We have.
Just last week.
Okay, fabulous,
Because I was
thank you.
told next check run, like a week and a half ago, so.
Thank you, okay.
Sounds like right here every day, next check run you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on this page? All right, page 5. Now we're in expenses, my favorite category.
And I just wanted to let you know that Adrian and each department head sat down and talked over expenditures. And then Rick sat down with them, and then we sat down one more time before we put this together. So you know it's been talked over, and the department heads are here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, so can you talk on the expenses, how you're dealing with the salaries? How is salaries factored in with regards to fiscal year 27?
Yeah, so I brought Jody here just to back me up. One thing that we did was we took all of our PES system and reviewed it. And then what we did is we thought through it. There's some categories on it that we refined to be a little bit better qualified so that you can see what that actually represents. And then we defined what the unique category was, which is a category that John Moosey created in order to evaluate and place certain positions at a rate that was at his discretion. And so in order to be, I guess, consistent, like what does that mean? We created some measurable categories so that it can not just a few staff members, but it can go across the board at everyone. Would anyone else have unique qualifiers in order to see what their salaries were? Second, what we did was we reviewed all of them based on criteria of thinking about in light of, if we had to replace this person, what would that mean? Like, we're talking about, what is market rate? I know we can't afford market rate, but if we were to budget this, thinking about each person, so then we went back to regrade them accordingly of the uniqueness, the difficulty of trying to rehire a person at a, you know, for example, I think I use Jeb in our examples. Jeb is a, since he's not here, it's easy to talk about him, right? Jeb is a building official. He has all the highest certifications possible. It's very difficult to find somebody at his caliber, but he also has been around for over 20 years now. So he's a very interesting, how do you grade this person, or how do you replace a person like that? And the reality is we probably couldn't. We'd have to probably hire somebody and begin to develop them, become a building inspector, and then try to get them to become the building official. It would take years and years to get a person like that. So we factored all that. We looked at our grading system, and then we regraded everyone. Now, most people fell where they should, but a few people did not. We did
Positions.
the positions, correct. The positions we regraded. So what you're seeing is a step that we have normally. Not everyone gets a step because based on how long they've been here in their longevity. But we took all of those. We had set up a category for you guys in the previous year, basically showing COLA plus the step, what that equals to. And then we took that and then regraded some of these and brought you that. So it's a bare bones salary across the board, not counting anything that I was talking about during our priority list of trying to get people graded up higher. This is just bare bones of trying to.
So that's what's baked
that's
into
what's-
these numbers
that's what's baked
when you're
into this.
presenting salary, is just
So-
the bare bones?
And if you were, yeah, that's correct. If you were to look at what's the percentage, Jody?
Yeah, I could jump in on this a little bit if y'all want. In 2024, John Hosey created what he called the PES, Position Evaluation System. And he said, for this time, because it's going to be, I think people don't like change, but now that we've had it a couple of years, we really do see the value in it. You're placing positions on scales, and the longevity is a longevity scale. So, the longer you're in the town, you get a step, you get every year necessarily. In the beginning, you do. These are extremely common. This is the #1 way that local government has their pay scale. And before that, we were like Wild Wild West. But we're hiring somebody, well, we'll pay them this. And this is a much better solution to how you grade positions. When Rick was talking about the unique category, we did, and Rick and I sat down and really came up with what is unique mean? Because sometimes the person is bringing something to that position. And that's where it gives you the opportunity to say, well, this particular person has some unique attributes. But as far as what we were looking at is keeping the PES just as we've had it since it went into inception in 2024. Rick and I did look at the different positions to make sure that we felt they were graded appropriately for where we are today.
great. I just wanted to make sure she was gonna say that it's including 2 positions too, but she did.
Okay.
Any other questions? No, okay.
Well, I
Oh.
do notice that the town council's gonna get a raise on the leave.
Where is that?
No,
You should ask for back pay.
For the record.
Well, I have brought it up in the
I
past,
know
and
you
you shut
have,
it down
every
every
single
time.
time. I'm just being a smart ass, but
Well, here's your chance to do it again.
Where is
Don't
that?
even need it.
I don't
just
know.
thought it was funny.
See,
8
Tammy,
years later,
we've heard you.
you've heard it. You feeling it, right?
All right, I would check the 6,900 number, because I don't think that's correct then.
It's a $50 increase per month, so the council will go from 50 to 100, the mayor will go from 100 to 100.
That's correct, then I used my calculator,
Oh,
and I checked,
Oh, it's not right?
I checked, that's all I'm saying, I could be wrong.
Just saying.
Which calculator?
All right.
Yeah, my slide rule.
Distracted.
All right, I don't have any other notes. So moving on, page 6,
Yes, that is off.
it is,
6,900 is off.
what should it be?
Well,
9,000.
9,000?
9,000?
What is the mayor make?
150.
Way too much.
That's right.
Well,
He's going to
at the new rate.
I can get dinner and a drink in this town.
He's gonna start taking out, regularly,
Information just
Adam,
publicly discussed.
and then you'll start taking out a monthly for these.
So it should be 9,000. Paul is correct.
That's why I said do not doubt him.
Confirmed and,
All right, we all have that on ours now.
okay.
All right, page 6,
Yeah, the question I had there was legal services, right in the middle of page 50,000.
Yeah.
Is that sufficient for this so-called pending lawsuit that you had talked about?
no. And so we didn't, we've talked about it in staff, but it was not reflected in this.
Or what should it be then?
So that 50,000 is just normal legal expenses
Correct.
for legal reviews. And you can see that we're at 42,000, so that's a normal amount. What I would propose is, we really don't know right now because that lawsuit could settle. It's supposed to, if it does, it goes to trial at the end of June. And they will most likely appeal it if it were to go there. So there could be an occurring cost next year, but they could settle. Our best guesstimate of talking through this would be 60,000. So we could appropriate that, but it should go in line item 3401. So that would, yes. And that, the note I'm putting in the section would be the ongoing lawsuit regarding assessment of real estate taxes from 2009 to 2014. So you'll see that in the next iteration, but that's correct call.
So that's an additional how much?
60,
60, okay, so,
again, that's, we'll know more as this goes forward, but we don't know. This is, oh, by the way, our legal expenses are almost exhausted through BML, and that's why we're talking about this.
Versa,
that's,
Oh,
Mary
sorry.
just
Yeah.
handed it out.
I think we've got about just over $2,000 left.
Yeah, so that's why we're saying we better budget.
Okay.
We'll go back to that raise we just gave ourselves. Take it out.
Also, under, I've got a note here too, 3405, legal services planner. I think we should bump that. We didn't actually consider the Bay Creek PUD legal review, and that would go under that category. So Katie had 4,000, so we're gonna bump it down 10 more, so it'd be total 14,000. And the note would be Bay Creek PUD legal review. I also found another note to suggest. Under 3420, it's consulting services. This is the beachfront master plan, is what it's been coming out of. I'm suggesting that we put in a little buffer for potential that may come up. So this would be consulting services. If the county and the town decides to go in the direction to use a third party for fire capital equipment needs, then we should put it there. It's 25,000, because we're not giving it to the fire department, but we would be using it for that consulting.
So make that 55?
55, correct.
And can you relay that to,
I have already.
to Matt?
Already.
And what, is he gonna add something to the county budget?
Potentially. We have another couple meetings to go through.
Because I'm gonna start working through then the board of supervisors
Yeah.
and saying, Charles has put this in the
That's
budget.
fine. Matt's aware that we're doing it. So I suggested that we both do it, that we're sharing the cost of the legal service, not legal, consulting service. But, so yeah, you can work your end, and I'm
Okay,
already set
all right.
on that. All right, any other questions? Page 7.
I do have a question. You and I talked briefly about, how at the very end here, when you talk about money going out, used to be under Rick's budget, correct?
Transfers out, yeah.
Transfers out.
Yeah.
Are you gonna show the transfers out that we're no longer doing for this coming year as zeros?
How are we handling that, right?
Our intent was not to do that, but we could either provide you with that information supplementally, or we could theoretically put it in the budget document as well.
I'd like to put it in the budget document just to show where we're not spending money. If that's okay?
Give me an example, you saying?
Sure, a really small example would be
Museum.
some of the grants that we
Okay,
do.
okay,
Museum,
all right,
the
Christian
school, we're not doing that, and it's not really reflecting as a zero.
Okay, and you're saying add that to that transfer out table?
Yes, because that's where all of those things
Right.
moved to, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You approve?
So Tara, if you have more questions under that one, the transfer out, we can dialogue over that more.
Okay.
So whether we get there tonight, but I'm open to dialogue.
Okay, but for now, at a minimum, I would just like it in there as zeros, please.
Under town manager, how about the harbor study maintenance report update? Were we planning on capturing it under capital or under or not?
I'm going to
Capturing
defer
it
to
all.
Bob on this one. Remember the question I asked you earlier?
We did, and I think Rick's got a lot for consulting services. And I think the question actually would be larger than that. We did an assessment several years ago.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But we also need to update the non-harbor systems, okay? We did, for example, HBA performance, this building, the library building, municipal center, municipal building. Those need to be updated too. I want to do them all until we see what we got, what we're going to build. We want to do an assessment of this if we're going to sell it. But, for example, public works buildings have never been assessed. Their condition. So, I think Rick has sufficient, I think you wanted to add a little bit to your
Yeah,
consulting.
I do.
Well,
to take
does the
care
note
of
have to
the-
expand then? Do you have enough money for that? And so where is that reflected?
Because you
The
just had,
PhD consulting,
yeah, we just increased that to 55. Do you want us to go further to cover some of these others?
Yeah, I asked Bob, he gave me some quotes. He thought maybe 20 to 25,000, that could do the assessment for the library and public works buildings. 10 to 15 for the harbor update, that's the Langley. So that's 25 plus 15, 40. It's 40,000 for assessments. We can put that additional to the consultants, and I'll reflect it in the notes.
And that gets you up to what, $100,000 there?
55, it's 40,
Right? 40, did you say, or 45, I'm sorry?
40.
Okay, so that gets you up to 95,000 consultant, I don't know, I'm Christmas.
Rick, would you cover those numbers one more time that we're now adding
Yes.
to them?
So 25,000 would cover the library and the public works buildings. And then 15 would cover the update to the harbor facilities.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got a good baseline on that already.
So that's being added to the consultant category.
Yeah, 34,
So you're at 95 January,
yeah,
So,
yeah.
right?
That's correct. And then you got the note for the 3. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so. All right, page 7. So have you noticed that the town manager, the account was 4 pages and now it's just a page and a half? So,
Yeah, and the price went up.
well, you also get another person.
Price is always low.
Cost of doing business. Questions in finance?
I have a correction to make to the next page in finance, page 8. Under line item 4124, 5,200 travel mileage, parking and tolls. We want to come down from $3,200 to $2,000.
Which line item, what's that?
5,200.
5,200. Going down to,
2,000.
2,000. I was watching gas prices on the news when I came up with that number.
All right, HR. This is a new category.
So I see the part-time salary, is part of it in clerk and part of it in human resources?
It's clerk and HR assistant. The note there should have said part-time clerk HR assistant.
But does the money, I didn't see the money under the clerk.
So we don't split
Bless you.
positions. You gotta house it in one place or another. We did that back with Jay Fowler, we had it split between 2.
Yes.
And the problem is in my systems like payroll, they won't split it. So it's just easier just to say we're gonna budget and we just threw that position under HR and it doesn't have to be there, but it needs to be budgeted, budgeted one department.
Right.
But it still means that is a dual report
Sure.
position.
Yes.
So we've created job descriptions for you to have. I know Jody's got that. And for the full-time position under the town manager's account, we have that as well. These are drafts. These are stuff that we've been working on. They will be refined and, of how the specifics between the part-time clerk and the part-time HR, I guess it's administrative. We don't know the details of how that would work between 2 departments, but we do have a working document for if you want to see those things.
Is it one FTE split between 2 departments, or is it one?
So it's gonna be it's gonna start off part-time. Libby and I talked about this and we felt that 30 hours minimum, with 30 hours, you are eligible for ACA to go on to do health insurance. That might help us with the recruiting of that position.
Okay, that's better.
That's what, yeah.
All right, any other questions about HR? All right. IT.
I think that Paul had a question about some of the computer hardware.
yeah, 6160 is just, to me, is a laundry list there, and I'd ask the town manager if you can justify this.
Sure. And so I'd like to just briefly talk about it, and Libby can probably piggyback and address more. It's not a wish list. We have a rotation every 5 years that we go ahead and replace computers. We do that because we know the longevity they don't last very long, and it's way more expensive when they crash of trying to get all of our stuff back. So we have a natural rotation, and it's that time to rotate. However, after going through this more, what we've found out is that we actually have money now that we can go ahead and get 7 of those computers. So we can do that in this year's budget, so that it'll reduce that cost. It'll go from 48,500 to 38,000. So we're gonna go ahead and make that change. So in the notes section, it should reflect 7 instead of 14. And also, the line item above that one, 50/50, that's another mistake. It says 1,800, it should be 18,000.
I was gonna say, that's a
Yeah, that's just
big difference.
an error.
Okay.
Can I add a little bit to your 6160? As far as the server, we do not have a backup server. 2 years ago, our entire system crashed. We lost every report. Everything we've ever done for 30 years is gone. We took everything to the state police. They still couldn't get it. So we only go back 2 years now because we didn't have a backup server.
Well,
So,
backup, you gotta back it up to the cloud. I mean, you got backup and a server. I get it, because that's what I have. I got a server in my shop and it's never gone down in 15 years.
In the cloud.
And the cloud.
But do we have the cloud backup?
Yes.
You do now, you didn't have it 2 years ago, it sounds like. Cloud backup, because
oh no,
Do we have enough capacity in that?
Yeah, we've had Trayvon assess it to determine what we need.
And that includes the police's backup?
Yeah, the backup server and the backup cloud is under the software line item at 6170, you'll see it in the detail.
yes,
The
Yeah.
main cloud backup.
And you've got some more money than in this current fiscal year, if you're looking to buy something more than the 7 computers. You got another 10 grand sitting there.
Unless it's been spent, we just don't know about it yet.
Well, I hope somebody knows about it.
I haven't signed a check yet.
We'll look at it.
I'd
We
say,
could
look,
put it to some good use.
Look to spend, how about that? We will look to spend. And if things change, we will bring that back to you to reflect this.
And currently we have 14 computers that are all over 5 years old.
Yeah. So also for Paul's sake, the total, because we missed that, 18,000 is what should have been, the total for that IT is, for the budgeted last year should have been 380,114.
which line item are you talking about?
It's just a total,
Oh,
the
oh,
IT,
yeah, yeah.
since
internet and cable services, it was wrong.
yeah, that's right, that one should drop. I don't have a subtotal for that one. I'm sure Paul can do it with mine.
are we still in the police?
No, we haven't gotten to the police yet.
So, cool, just jump in,
Yeah.
that's all.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're at police.
Chief Pruitt, you mentioned that you guys have to pay the tolls. Have we baked in here some funds for them so that you guys aren't paying tolls? Or are you getting reimbursed for tolls when you guys have to?
we have Easy Pass,
Yeah.
but the town's paying tolls.
Say that again?
The town pays the tolls.
Okay.
Is something in the Bridgetown charter that makes towns pay the toll? So like county sheriff's office, they get toll tickets, state police gets toll tickets, the towns get the shaft. But of course, that's for going to school, everything we use is on that side of the work. The lab, the calibration of the vehicles, yeah.
But the town is
We
paying that. And
spoke with commissioners, but I don't think they'll ever see it.
President lives in town. I think
He certainly knows.
the
Yeah.
president lives in town.
Might be worth another good conversation
Might
with
be a
Jeff.
good conversation with Jeff.
yes, it is.
If you go to the state and county, what do you do? It's law enforcement.
I mean, we're not almost Exmoor or all,
Yeah, I get it.
all short.
All right, so on police, I see we're buying a car, which is fine. They asked for an updated chart that gives us a rundown on all the cars and the mileages and years.
I don't have mileages. I mean, now the oldest one I want to replace
on the sheet there, I just wanna point to it and put it in my records.
Right, so I guess I want to say this too, as we're, and I appreciate you saying that because when you bring one in, you should be bringing one out. The plan that I'd like to assess first is, before we get rid of it per se, I'd like to see, can I reuse it for another department? So I thought, I will probably talk to Ralph to see what the needs are and before, we may get one of their, feeders before we do something, so. But if we don't need it, then by all means, I'll bring it back to you and then we will talk about auction or sell or something.
Are we up to date on all those, the grants for cars? Are we still lagging a year behind?
Man, please don't purchase that through the USDA or we might not get a car. Because Ford makes these vehicles at one crack and the entire state goes after them. And if we wait for USDA to cut whatever brake they cut loose, by the time we're approved, there's no cars left. Or it's a red one, or, so
You know, you think?
we're all off colors. So I think the last couple we bought,
Yeah, we did, but it's not in here for USDA in this budget.
My last attempt at going with a USDA loan, and grant was unsuccessful due to a change in personnel, as well as they didn't know if they would have any funding available and they hadn't.
I don't know.
I mean, it's, for me, it's a pain because I can't ever do anything. That's why we fell behind, is because we had, go to get a car that's not, no one state.
Okay, well, we don't have it in this budget.
Correct.
Right, all right.
That's why I asked.
All right, anything else in, please? All right, code enforcement. This is Jeff's account. By the way, we're most likely, we were making a change, but could not do it fast enough. And Jody happened to take time off that she needed during time. And instead of trying to, no, it's not Jody's fault. It just happened to be at the time when we're trying to get all this done. We would like to move a staff member from Katie's department into Jeb's department. It's a dual role as well, but we think it's better assessed under that
Yeah,
department.
I was
So,
wondering why it wasn't in there.
yeah, next iteration you'll see that.
It's
I
the same
forgot
thing.
one thing.
Then that's, because that's the new guy, that kind of explains the 8-9%.
Yeah.
It's the
Go
same
ahead.
thing that we were
The,
talking about earlier with the, how you split them. It doesn't really matter what budget it's under. You budget the position.
Yeah.
But we did think that it just made more sense and evens things out a little bit.
Well, to me, it's more appropriate with Jeff because that person might be doing
Inspection.
building inspection.
Yeah.
Right, working on his license and
Yes.
the Virginia building
That's
inspector
exactly how we-
license, so.
We're gonna go back to the chief real quick, we forgot one, so.
The 45, having the spreadsheets, didn't get the spreadsheets till after we did this. But, one's 47.5, one's 47.6. Where's what? The,
For the car?
770 car.
Is that including isn't it?
I got that in another line,
Yeah, that's what I was.
vehicle and power equipment, six.
Got you. It's the 6175.
No.
60, no, about 6,200.
Okay, right,
I think. Yeah,
Right.
6,200
Right.
is where the app is.
Right.
So you're saying you need more than 45 for the car?
Yeah.
That's
40,
fine.
what is it?
What is it?
One sprint is 45.7, one's 47.5, and one is 47.6.
So just make it
48.
48, yeah, and get what you get.
Is that the only change, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so not in the other 6,200 category, no change there?
The outfitting of it.
No.
This yellow, right?
The last one we took to Richmond.
Works.
Oh, staying with Cody?
Yeah, anything else from code enforcement? All right. Public Works?
I would like for us to look at adding a position for public works.
Here,
We
here.
had talked about it, in this budget meeting for the last 4 years at least.
4 or 5.
And every time we ask, they're, oh, no, we're fine. But the answer, when we need things, is we don't have enough people. And Public Works does a great job, but they're stretched. And we've seen that with the work that Clayton's been doing and assessing kind of things. And just recently with, we're at a point where we not only need to be ready at April 1st, we really need to be ready March 15th. So our seasonal person starting April 1st doesn't help to get ready. So I don't know if the answer is if it's a part-time person or if it's taking that seasonal person and making them full-time. I just think it's time.
Okay. I will bring those numbers back to you, so we'll have specifics, and I know Jody can.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, and we do have seasonal who could maybe go full-time and then keep, so have 2 seasonals,
Right.
one goes full-time and one stays seasonal. I see it too, I see their hours, and some of these public works employees are working 7 days a week. And we're not making them, we're not asking them to do that, I mean, trust me, they like doing the hours.
Do they get overtime?
Oh, of course,
Yeah,
I would,
but that's
that
the
would counter that.
Yes,
Or having more
exactly.
exactly, and that's time and a half.
I wouldn't get rid of the part-time, I wouldn't just take a part-time to go full-time, I'd bring back another part-time as well.
Like, I hate seeing that number planned down in the budget, like,
So
generally
the seasonal
into.
we have now is working 40 hours a week. So they're seasonal, but they're working, while they're seasonal, they're working 40 hours a week.
Right.
So they're not
Our
really, they're
our
part-time, but they're working 40
Our
hours.
seasonal goes until what time of year?
So you typically till the end of September.
And
But
start
then we
planning.
brought them back around the holidays. So they took, they went off payroll in the end of September, then we brought them back in December to do all the lights and the bathrooms and all that during Festive Friday.
Yeah, and we're at 20,000 overtime right now.
So,
$27,000 budget for overtime, so.
And I don't know if it's all personnel either. I mean, I don't know, we expect those employees to do a lot, I think, just vaguely in terms of keeping
Yes.
things looking good. But, I mean, I always say this to you, you and I have had many conversations about that, but we just need to raise the bar. No other department is not staffed to the level, we always talk about the strain on staff when we look at our strategic plan, about all the extra things that go beyond just doing your job every day and having the time to be thinking in the future and planning for other projects. We are falling way short, and this is not a criticism of people. It's a criticism of, I think, starts with us, the way we prioritize that department. And I mean, we're not, it's like telling your kid they can get another dog if they're not feeding and walking the dog and picking up after the dog yard at half. Like, we shouldn't have, as we've discussed, the pavilion looking the way it does, this building looking that way, the rusty flagpole without a, I mean, all that stuff, these aren't big needle movers in this budget, but they are huge optics for the community.
And I looked at it, like when I made my notes on it, my question mark was, do we not necessarily, we need the person, but do we need money to support outsourcing
Yes.
certain projects?
Because I don't think these people
I was going
should
through
be
your
doing that.
list,
Yeah.
and thinking that, and the reality is that should we have a certain month that we bring in a painter for 3 weeks, or, I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever those projects are that we outsource. I don't know the solution, but I think we need to help that department make those decisions well and give them the tools to do so.
We all know the solution, it's just what you just said.
Yeah.
and that is something that we really discussed, Ralph's not here tonight, but he is feeling stretched, absolutely.
Well, if you read every one of the town manager reports from last year, it always starts, you can feel the tension in his voice about feeling like he's got more to do than he has the ability to get to. And
And it hasn't made sense to us that for 4 years we have offered to fund that.
Yeah, I've been saying it for a long time.
Yeah, I know you've been saying a long
But
time.
hasn't wanted to move forward, and that's not a criticism of the department or anything, but I've never really quite understood why that never got off the mark, so.
So to give you something specific to work off of, yeah, we're, well, some of us, most of us, I think, are open to another position if he feels like, you know, it's one thing to have another person, it's another thing, I mean, I've had situations in my business where I hired new people and we became less productive because I
Right.
spent more time running
Yes.
around chasing people who were going in the wrong
Exactly.
direction.
And I think
So
that's the hesitation.
that's something he needs to think about, but then also just some placeholder items financially to just say, look, can we get a bid to paint
Yes.
this building, to, not to have his staff do it, I mean,
Right.
it's a it's a trade, and it requires people with the proper tools and expertise, some of these
To
things.
be done well.
Yeah,
It's even a time to possibly look at the beach every time getting cleaned up as well, because obviously, we had a week and it's not done.
Yeah.
I mean, that week really did, I mean, it did what it needed to do, but it's not where it needs to be.
and I'm happy to do whatever I can do to help facilitate any of this. I mean, I'm not, again, it's not a indictment of anybody's
Right.
job at
We
all.
want to help,
Yeah.
that's what we're.
You're not
And I would say just on what Meg said, the full-time one and the part-time, so really not giving up the other position, you know, not taking one from the other,
So adding
But if there's-
permanent, full-time.
and still leaving the two seasonal.
If there's pushback out of hiring or adding another staff member, then maybe we do look at giving money for, not a consultant, but an outside organization to be able to come in and do some of these.
Outsource.
Just to
Yeah,
put
to
some stuff out
outsource,
there.
yes.
But even with that, I think it's high time to get another.
And I think the seasonal should not be April 1. I think our seasonal should start March 1 and go to September 15th, if that's what it needs to be.
Because they can do 20 hours instead of 40, starting in March.
Look at this year,
I know they need to be working on minimum in March to be ready for April,
Correct.
not starting.
And look what's already happened.
Will you say the date again, Jenny?
Like March 1 to like September 15th or something like that, just to, get us through Labor Day. But it's the front end of seasonal that we need the help with, because that's when all the work is to get ready for the season. And right now, my understanding is they come April 1st. We're already running.
So Clay, just to address that, because, I think you brought an excellent point. It's one thing to hire another person, but we also need to consider, we gotta bump some categories if we wanna get some of these projects done. So I'm thinking maybe if we can bump the 6225, it's a general repair maintenance category. He's got 70,000, he's kept that the same, even though he's only spent 45. But we should bump that so that he can get this building painted,
Yes.
fix the gazebo, and not have to worry about taking away from his other normal things that come up.
Yeah, he has, like, Shabbat has an ongoing kind of camp list of his own, that
Yeah.
list of things and,
So,
But you're talking about using those funds, outsourcing those
Right.
jobs, because to say, paint it, here's some more money, if he doesn't have bandwidth, isn't gonna help,
Yeah,
right?
I just don't like Paul's always saying,
yes,
part of it is like, you had the budget this year,
You didn't use it.
we didn't use it, so like it's April 1st, 2nd. I mean, we've got a couple months left, let's
Use it.
use some budgeted funds to get these things
What
done.
would it cost to paint a building?
This one,
this one.
Depends.
10 grand?
this one,
Yeah,
I
11
put
grand,
20 in
12
for this building, because there's some repair too.
So 20 plus the repair.
I said 15,
painting
so
and
we're all
repair.
over.
Yeah.
Well, 20's good.
I'd say-
And it looks like we've got it.
I think I know a guy that knows how to paint.
I was gonna say,
One of the things, I talked to Ralph a lot, so one of the things that would help, he can't spend all this money because he's out helping his guys.
Right.
Okay, they're short staffed. So if he had a competent additional individual, he could spend more time actually outsourcing, you just don't go, you know, out on the street and say, hey, cut some thing for building, you gotta put out a RFP and everything.
well, right, and that's where he, I don't know if that's part of what he thinks his job is to do. He kind of seems to focus on
What's the
what he can
number?
accomplish and wants to do everything.
What's that?
Which is great.
For a bid, for the tenant?
10 grand, it's low. That all has to be, all
But you
of
could
it.
put out
Yeah, if it's under 10, you don't have to like.
But you could also get, you could have you could have the pavilion, I almost said two G word.
Pavilion.
You could have that done for less than 10 grand.
Yes, yes,
Okay, so let's build that in then.
yeah.
But
So
it's
we're
in,
talking, say again?
But maybe he's not the guy, I don't know, do I need to call
Let's work on
somebody?
using
I'll do it.
Right, before we raise the budget.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Let's
Let's
work
get,
Yes.
we'll get the gazebo done this year.
Pavilion.
The
The beach area.
the pavilion,
Okay.
our
Well,
our icon.
they both need work.
What are you doing on that?
Right. They both need.
All right, so we're gonna bump the 70 to 90, and then we'll put in there, that will be for outsourcing to get this painted.
And then, I mean, maybe ask him to look at, given this conversation, ask him to look at projects that are on that list, and maybe we do need to take that budget number up for next year.
I mean, you might not
Yeah,
even
that's
need to, you don't have to do this stuff every year.
Yeah.
No,
This is like once
Right.
every 5.
Yeah.
This hasn't been painted.
Well, exactly.
That's a, you know, foot paint in Pittsburgh. Right.
That's why I put it in general. Now, if that's not the right category, we'll confirm that, like we're talking about it right now, but.
And just going back to the staff real quick, just talking about it, I mean, so now if we're gonna already take it from March to the end of September, I don't even see why we don't have part-timers throughout the year and not have 40 hours a week. Why can't a part-timer just work 15 hours or 20 hours? And we have them here at our disposal at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, they aren't supposed to be part-time, they're not supposed to work 40 hours a week.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, why not just have them year round? I mean, if there's a week they don't work, they don't work. If there's a week we need them for 20 hours, we put them on for 20 hours. I mean, there's no limit, right? I mean, if we have them part-time, we don't have to employ them for that week.
Well,
That's kind of tough.
So I think the other thing,
Everyone gotta come on.
But you follow what I'm saying? If they're only used to working May through September right now, and that's the same person we have, and they're not working from September to,
Kind of what we're doing now, in a way. I mean, and we're lucky that we have that, because most people don't want to work here and there.
Yeah.
Because then you can't commit to another job.
Not
only two, but 3 months.
So that's a tough person,
We'll
unless,
let you, we would actually
Yes.
figure that out.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
also, just know that there's another level of thing we're trying to stay under, which is the FMLA.
Yes.
it's
And then-
done, I was just looking at it, I'm like, we're gonna be there.
Ugh.
I think we're gonna be there with, if we do public works,
Alright.
and things like, even the seasonals
Yeah,
get,
let's just say.
they get computed
Yeah.
towards that number.
Okay.
So, it's,
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Cost
What's that
of
do?
living.
Doesn't really
Yeah.
matter.
yeah.
All right,
Moving on.
okay.
I don't know.
Any other questions under Public Works? Okay, so this is also a new category. It used to be, well, a long time ago, it was called Parks and Rec, and then John Husey dissolved it. Well, didn't dissolve it, we just didn't put it in our budget anymore. And now we're bringing that back and just clarifying it's town events and recreation. Pam is where this is her category, her budget that she oversees. So one item to clarify, under seasonal wages, under that, what is, I think Paul asked the question earlier, what does that mean? And that's a very specific thing that we pay for help that we need that's outside of volunteers. An example of that was Walt in the past, and, but we have 1,200, and that's just for the Easter egg hunt, 4th of July, and the new fall festival, that we have to get specific people that we pay because we need to get them in there to help us.
All right, so you
You actually have 15.
add to the notes and stuff.
Correct.
All right.
That's correct. All right, next page, 13. Anything else that's left to?
Yes, so fireworks, we're gonna apply for the grant, right?
For the fall festival?
Fireworks.
Fireworks has already been taken care of, yes.
Good.
No, no.
The grant's been submitted, yes, I'm sorry.
You haven't got allocated?
Yes,
Got
it's been
awarded.
submitted.
How much did you submit it for?
I believe it was 15,000.
Okay. So maybe a note
We
in
went off
there
last year's number.
about,
Grant was
Lincoln County submitted for 15K. We'll know by May,
Well,
mid-May.
it's 14 in our revenue side.
You know what?
On our revenue, I think it
Yeah.
says 14,000.
Right,
All right, so I need to,
just make sure those match up.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fall festival is something new
yes.
that
No, we haven't talked about it.
Okay, thank
But yes,
you.
that is a new event that we're proposing for this year.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we're gonna go back in time where the heydays of Cape Charles, where that was like a big event. It reflected our community in a really powerful way. So we're gonna go back to that kind of event where it's parade.
Oktoberfest? Sunday of Columbus Day weekend. I think it's the 12th this year.
I think it'd be like the harbor
It's
park.
always,
October 10th.
With the Catholic Church that there's.
tell me when you're talking about doing the fall festival?
Yeah,
October
the
10th.
11th is yours.
Then the Oktoberfest would be the next day, so one's family friendly and one's adults.
Woohoo! Well, that's perfect.
That sounds great. Okay.
Well, and there's a.
Well, I only have $10 to spend that weekend.
Another St. Patrick's Day.
What was that? Craig?
So, we're also trying to get Shriners, and it looks like that will work. So
Okay.
so it becomes not just a Shriners thing that we had last year, but it becomes where, it's a big deal. And actually Tammy's helping us, using her expertise.
Thanks, brainstorm.
All right, any other questions under that? Library? Any questions about library?
I had a question, and I talked with Marion about it a little bit. I want to make sure I find it. The Friends of the Library. Right now, we've only claimed, I guess, $550 from the Friends. Is that how am I reading that correctly?
What line item?
Sorry,
Yeah.
4110.
So, Tara, that 6,000 is kind of a placeholder. We don't have a set amount because each year we ask the Friends for different amounts of monies.
Okay.
So, right now, it's just that small amount, but as summer's coming, if with all the new submissions, it's gonna go up.
It's gonna go up before this calendar, this fiscal year ends.
Correct.
So, okay.
And
then-
it's, sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't, depending on what we get through the Friends.
Okay, that's great. And then my other question was on, sorry, I gotta find it. It was for the, not summer reading, it was for the, townwide read. I think this year we went over budget, yes, that's on page 13. We went over budget. Do we need to ask for something? This is 3005.
I believe we went over budget because we got the projector and all of those bigger pieces of equipment, which we won't be getting every year. So next year it would just be the movie license and the rental for the theater.
Are those things that the Friends of the Library can help with?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Would the Friends not be willing to help us offset this over budget piece, or?
We won't be over budget next year because we're not gonna be buying the projector and all of those things.
Why did we have to buy a projector this year? Didn't we do it at the Palace Theater?
Because we went to the Christian school the previous year.
And they didn't charge you?
Correct.
What the theater does?
We had a cleaning fee
Right,
or
cleaning
something
fee.
to each.
Right.
But I'm not understanding this.
They paid for the theater,
No, I thought this number of 1245 is this current fiscal year that we're in,
Mhm.
correct?
It is, it's what
Yes.
actual.
Which
to
is,
date.
we did not use the Christian school this fiscal year. We used it the year prior.
I think she's saying that the 1245 is the Palace Theater, the rental fee and stuff.
But she is, and I don't understand, we didn't have to get a projector this year.
I can get you the breakdown.
Honestly, I'm not sweating $300 and some odd dollars, $400 some odd dollars. I'm just curious, if we were at the Palace Theater this year, and it did cost us $1245.36 this year at the Palace Theater, don't you want to ask for a little bit more than $900 for next year, assuming we'll be at the Palace Theater again?
The theater and the movie license together
I just wanna make sure you're getting enough.
No,
I
I
don't,
appreciate it.
and if we wanna make it $1,200, I don't think $300 is gonna really bust our budget here. If you
I'll
think,
confirm the difference.
okay, cause if you like the 1,200, I'd advocate for it, okay?
It's popcorn.
Give them some popcorn.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, they don't allow it?
What?
They don't even allow popcorn.
Alright, sorry, that was all I needed on the library.
All right.
Anybody else in the library? Moving on to planning.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh, I hear
I'm in the curve.
So
We're doing so good.
this is gonna, the wages is gonna change, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it will change next iteration. Any questions in this category?
Well, I guess with regards to that first staffing, when we talk about offices of other boards, we're not considering increasing theirs.
No, heck no.
I just want to make it out there, right?
Would they do get paid more than us already?
Well, it's training.
Oh, maybe more frequently.
The planning commission worked very hard.
I know you guys do, yes.
Double
I wouldn't-
dipping.
you couldn't do that.
They get paid for every meeting? Holy cow.
Okay, okay.
All right, page 15.
No, you're good.
15, good.
These are good notes, by the way.
Yeah, under 15, under management consulting, we have the 115,000 for harbor railroad master planning and design guidelines. Is the design guidelines factored into that?
In terms of, if you recall, we still have a whole chapter in our zoning ordinance that is called the Historic Harbor District, and that's supposed to have guidelines. And the town council some years ago under Mr. Bennett, I'm gonna throw him under the bus, he removed the Historic Harbor guideline permanently as a document because it was outdated. So if we're still going to have an Historic Harbor overlay, I need some guidelines for that.
Okay, but not a separate book. It's going to be in the ordinance, you're saying?
It'll be a document that will be referred, and again, this is still one of those conversations we need to have, if we're gonna have a separate, this harbor, which we still have, the
Right.
Harbor Area Review Board,
Right.
we talked about, should we
Right.
combine that with the Historic District Review Board? Maybe just the numbers, we still gotta work all that out, but we need to get through this planning process first. Once that document gets finished and out, then we'll start working to, okay, what implementation documents do we have to put in place to,
Okay, so in the past, 2006 or whatever, we produced a book that Harb would have used.
yes.
That book is no longer
That's correct.
applicable. We're not including in this budget that book.
I've got money in there for what I consider the phase two. Once the harbor master plan is finished,
Right.
I think we'll be engaging, whether it's the Berkeley group or somebody else, to do some of that implementation documentation for us.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Anything else? Page 16. So I've got some corrections as well. Under 4030, under transfers out, this is the Citizens for Central Park, this is the concert series and things like that. Under the last year's count, it's kind of blank. It should be 17,000. It's what we spent. And we're also asking for 17, they're asking 17, not 20. So it's the same.
I was wrong, I'm sorry.
So that also means in the notes, 3,000 is for staffing and 14 is for the concerts. So that's.
Well, their sheet says, the cover sheet says, the sheet says something else. It's like 5,000 for staff. Where is it? Freaking thing.
It's in the file.
Here it is.
Oh, here it is.
12,000 for the concert, 5,000 for staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Either way, same number.
Same number.
It's the same, but it's a good note, we want to make sure it's accurate, so I appreciate that. So as you can see, under 4210, Main Street allocation's gone from 90 to 110, and that note should be reflected as, they're asking for an increase, so that they can go, hire a part-time staff member to focus on events, such as the Festive Fridays, help with that.
Love Run.
Love Run, yeah, just
Love Run,
events.
all-
I thought it was a working board.
It is a working board.
It is.
Yes, and the working board was able to do that without $20,000 for many years.
Not able to keep them.
Yes, and I don't know that we should have to pay for that then. I'd also like, I'm assuming that this was submitted in color.
It was.
It's just hard to tell what their money's going to in black and white, based on the way the chart is set up.
I'll send you an electronic file to everyone on that.
I'd also ask, so there's an ROI number on this presentation that says projected at 630, and the ROI says 263. Is that for just this year? My concern was that for a while we were being presented numbers that were averaging things out, and it was including money that was granted as part of the COVID closures, and it was averaging that number into it, and I don't think that's an accurate reflection. That was a one-off, random, it should be pulled out and that ROI number recalculated. So I'd like to know if that 263 is including that.
Maybe you should have Main Street Town.
I think
Okay.
that would be
All right, I'll have them the next time.
And it looks like they're asking for 10,000 for support staff to run the events.
Correct.
We used to hire event coordinators, and it would come out of the budget of the events,
Yep.
not paid for by the town. And the Placer AI software at $5,000, we have that right now. Is this a renewal? They have it right now. Is this a renewal?
It's a renewal every year.
But then why haven't they been asking for it before? Why is
They've
it?
just been budgeted in. I think they got a special grant.
Okay.
One of them, but it's not something they can get a grant on again. They also split it with ESBA Tourism once.
And I thought they split it with Citizens for Central Park.
Yeah,
too.
a couple of people last time.
So
But
for-
I think that Main Street paid for it. I don't think that Central Park funded.
Okay, so do we want to just pause and let them come back and speak, or did you want to correct that request?
I'd like for them to come and speak and answer these questions. I think particularly given what I saw off of the strategic plan, I know I wasn't there, but, I saw that the visitor piece really was pared down substantially, and I feel like this is an investment that is counterintuitive to that revised strategic plan, community strategic plan, and certainly counterintuitive to what the survey results were from the community.
Okay, I've highlighted on mine, and we'll bring that back next time. Any other questions for, transfers, do you want to go through that at all? Yeah, is there anything here you want to talk about?
Let's see. The volunteer fire company's request, they originally came to us with one number, and then a week later, they had increased that.
Which is reflected in this.
Welcome, that was me.
Is this getting them the equipment that they're talking about that's about to come offline? Is that what
Yes,
the
that's the
compressor is?
compressor.
That's to
Okay.
fill up the tanks. They
Yeah.
couldn't run it through the grant process because it would, basically, they would have not got the grant. So they're gonna go for the tanks, all 16 of those, and they pulled the compressor out. So Ryan asked us to put a
Yes.
request in there, so you guys start doing some of our public safety, and that's a big thing for
Absolutely.
failing equipment that we have, that we've gotta really start paying attention to.
Is there
My
more?
personal opinion.
I agree wholeheartedly. Is there more that they need? I mean, I'd rather for them be
Well, that's,
advertised
okay.
and,
This is where we get into the third-party review. That's why we're funding a study with the county
okay,
to review all 5 stations. That's our proposal at the town, to the county.
okay, okay.
And let them bring a consultant in and determine needs. Because each one is different and they're all siloed and they're not working together.
Right. But this gives us at least,
That
It gives the temporary things that we.
Correct.
yes,
That particular apparatus is
okay, okay,
well
okay.
needed.
Yeah.
And it's also redundancy through the county, because they,
Yes.
ours is dead or dying, and the other ones are aging out fast too, so.
Okay,
Generally on the transfers out, we redid our funding request to a one-pager that was more appropriate for each of the ones that we sent it to. So I think that worked well. We did receive one unsolicited, I guess that's the word you want to call it, unsolicited request for funding from GEAR, which is an affiliate somehow of Lemon Tree, I think.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
That's the one part that's behind.
That's the state grant.
Film.
Gotcha. But it didn't come in a funding request format, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, that's the one we fund every
No,
year.
that's not the past.
We don't do
This is
the
a
year.
different one.
Is it a different one?
Here is the Virginia
Is
Film
the
That's-
festival.
Oh, all right, sorry.
and have we told the entities that we're not getting, that we're not getting, requests from, that we're not doing anymore? I mean, the museum, for example, I'm still really torn up that we're not giving them any support. Same with the Christian school.
I don't think that we have a formal,
We haven't.
we have not formally informed them.
So I wanted to, I talked to her about this a
Yeah, I was
couple
gonna say,
times.
it's not been many recently.
No, we stopped this years ago.
No, we did it last
Yes,
year.
we-
Please stop. I was here last year
I've been
and I
on
know
this
we
council
gave
for
money
a
to
long
them.
time, we stopped it years ago, and it reared its head again.
Okay, and
Same.
I'm still not sure I agree with us not supporting these local community organizations. And I realize it's a tough decision to make, but I don't think that's any reason for us not to explore it.
So I have spoken to her about it, and I shared a suggestion that we did in Colorado, which was we created an account under like a transfer out, and it was just a $10,000-$20,000. That was the maximum, and then we allowed people to request funds from that. So that we controlled how much that was going to be, and it was very limited. So that's something that you guys should consider.
I support that.
Okay, then you're gonna get into splitting hairs, and this person, you know, have enough to
Do we give a
satisfy.
timeline of when they have to have an
Yeah.
application in?
That's exactly
And
right.
then what do we do if 30 come in, we just take that number divided by 30? Because I mean, once we really start splitting hairs and say, okay, this can go here, this can't go here, this.
But then we're just going backwards.
Well, here's the thing they did at the county just recently. They did their policy update. And the county attorney said, be very leery as to who you give money to. It has to follow state law. Okay, and yes, religion is not considered, but she was very emphatic because that came up. Geez, we gave to a church or a church function, and it was like, no, the state law is very specific on what a government entity can give out to an organization. So even if you set this aside, you still have to bring that language in and have somebody knowledgeable enough to be able to make that decision. Does it fit or not? And can we deal with the entire amount or a portion or?
That's why we
And
got
I
away
think
from
that
it.
we learn to give in kind, give with our services, give with our resources, in supporting nonprofit organizations and events. You know, we provide trash cans, we provide street closures, we provide staff, I mean, those are the resources because then we don't get into the ability to say we're supporting one or another. And we don't know if they have their licensures, we don't have if they have insurance, we don't know any of those things when we fund something, which is why we have gotten away from doing that. It's not that we're heartless by any means. That's not why we do it. But we also then guided those people to the resources that do exist so that they can get funding within the county.
What was the county's final determination of that?
Well, they adopted the policy, but anything now coming through has to meet, and it sounds like the county attorney is gonna now have to weigh in if it's great.
Kosher. Okay.
And then we have to pay attorney fees.
At the town level, yeah.
I thought it, I just didn't say it.
All right. Loud and clear.
17?
All right, before we go into that, I wanna talk, travel, education, dues, and office supplies.
Is that a chart? I see.
We'll create some animosity through
It is
this.
a chart.
All right, so let me talk, in each of the departments, I went and captured the amount that they had for fiscal year '26, how much they actually spent through March, and what they're asking for, all right? And when I go down for that grouping, I have for fiscal year '26 budget of 87,000. Spent to date, March, 33,000.
What was the budget number again?
87.
87.
So you're talking, I've spent 38%. And I'm asking for an increase from 87 now to 92. And I have a problem with that. I am not opposed to the education aspects, and I welcome all that stuff. But I'm not looking from year to year to continuing to increase and not spend what is there. And the reason I have a problem with that is because it takes money away from other things. So if I look, all this stuff that isn't spent, the 87, and we've spent the 33, and okay, grand, we'll go up to 50,000 by the end of the fiscal year. I have $30,000 that falls into reserves, year after year after year. And when I go to office supplies, I'll do the same thing. 44,000 budgeted. We spent 21,000, and we now asking for 43,000. Well, the same amount. There's some changes within departments. And again, I have a problem when I ask for equal or more, and I don't spend it. So I am looking to propose for let the travel grouping, travel, education, and dues, unless currently proposing less, hold all travel, education, and dues to the current budget levels for the general fund departments. I'm not talking hard. Simple as that.
Not looking to decrease even though they're all 50%.
Right. We're talking peanuts. You're talking $5,000, $5,500. It's less. But I want to send a message that we're putting the money in there and it's not being spent. And I'm not willing to go and increase it. That's just me.
I'm surprised you don't want to go down because we've had this same conversation.
Correct. I'm willing to compromise and just hold the line on right now. And if a department goes over by 1,000 or 2, I really don't care. Because I know another department is going to be well under it.
That's correct.
Well, and also the opportunity for a department to say, I'm at budget, but I'd like my team to go to X, Y, Z. And that's a decision that for Rick to make because he can look at.
And you can do an internal budget review if you really want to split hairs. We have a policy that allows internal budget transfers. Over 20,000, yes, the council has to be informed. But there is mechanisms for the town manager to move that budget around. So I'm just through with just giving more money to something that we're not using in both those categories.
Which ones?
I'm talking across all departments for travel, education, and dues.
Didn't we just have to do a budget adjustment, Katie, to?
Yes, I'm gonna speak out against this, if I'm allowed to.
You can, because I have your numbers right here, I can write down.
And let's see, I've got, Clayton, I think you're just starting your course,
Yeah.
is that correct? You
Right.
should have gone, you should have started like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I know, I want,
Okay, just making
the
sure.
per diem is too low, by the way. for the
Love
weekend.
it.
What,
But Alan, you didn't go because you didn't have the money.
Education line.
Who didn't go?
Wait, this way.
We did not send the newest
Right.
planning commissioner member that you guys just put on, Mr. Clark. Because I couldn't guarantee I had enough funds left for it, because I still have training that is scheduled, that actually starts in May. As I said, Clayton is going right now for he's in the, what they call the late winter session. I have staff that's going in the spring session. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm gonna fight for my department.
Your department's right now, according to what we've submitted here, is at $7,700 against a $12,000 budget. So yes, granted, he's got some money
He's
floating
going-
through.
I still, like I said, I have 2 staffers I still need to send through training, and I haven't been able to do that just because of workload has been the biggest issue, but I'd like to ensure they go, and there are scheduled times of when those trainings are offered.
That is correct, and I have no problem, and you can borrow some funds from another department that's
Agreed, that's
really.
I think the point you're making. I mean, let's
That's
try to
correct.
get these budgets correct.
That's correct.
If yours needs to be increased, then take it from another one,
Yeah.
just so the numbers don't change.
Right.
Because we've already added a lot to this.
Chief, yours, you know, that grouping, not just the education, but travel and conferences and all that stuff, is 6,900 against a budget of 14,000.
Oh, I don't see 14,000.
No, I've added the grouping,
Categories together.
Oh,
You know,
well, I have one in police academy now till the end of June, every day. So we're paying them every 5 days a week.
okay, but so you're 7,000, you're only half your budget right now, and you're asking for an increase to $20,000 for next year.
Is that because you have new hires though that you need to send to the academy? Next year?
But that's the cost of the class, that's not, that's not including, that's payroll is different.
No, it's not payroll, this is
I know,
just
I know, I
the
know.
grouping for travel and lodging.
The actual class.
Right.
So, I mean, what you're,
I have 2 different lines, travel meals, lodging, total, travel meals, lodging, parking. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, let me get
So
back.
you're talking about all 3?
Let me get back to
He's
your.
combining them.
So you got 992, so you're talking about all 3.
I got 3 line items for you. 5,200,
Yeah,
5,210, and 5,230.
Right. So,
So those
the
add up.
education, the 5230, our budget was 6,000, we paid more than that just for the academy dues every year.
Yeah, you're over.
And that leaves no money for anybody with any other class. So it limits us to only going.
All right,
to
let
classes
me
that-
rephrase what I said. It doesn't limit you to anything. It goes to Rick, and Rick will find that budget in another department that is falling short.
Yeah,
Or one of your other line items that is short currently.
Correct.
right.
so like your lodging and meals is 5269, but on a budget of 8,100.
Right.
So again, he's not asking to plan it down, he's just saying, let's not increase
I know you
it.
guys have put expenses to date through March 12th. Does that include all the credit card charges through February?
No, it does not.
You're missing all the credit card charges, I think, are not in here from February and March. of this year.
And that's fine, and a grant that's coming through, but it's not gonna go from 33,000 up to 86,000.
I'm not gonna tell you about anybody else. I know that's how I end up paying most of the travel expenses for all of my boards and commissions or go. I'm putting it on the town credit card, and it takes about 30 to 45 days.
Understand, it's still coming through.
In your budget.
So wait, so maybe can we address this when we have more reflective numbers of where we are
Well,
in
you won't
this?
have it, because you're
It'll
gonna have it
always have
floating in
flat.
even beyond 630.
Yeah, correct, exactly.
Somebody
But
might-
at least a little bit,
Yeah,
get a little
it'll-
closer.
it'll-
It makes no difference. It's not gonna change dramatically. They won't spend 50% of what is budgeted in all the departments.
Okay, so what would you like to have?
Just what I said.
Just a freeze.
I want to freeze it
Okay,
to what it is.
so then let's,
I'm sure. in
For,
the spreadsheet-
again, unless a currently proposed person is reducing, I'll
Right.
accept that.
As long as the overall number stays the same, that's all we're looking to do. You can put it in whatever budget you want.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I even look at it,
Go ahead.
I proposed, and I could not do anything. I couldn't go to any of my conferences. There was always something here that prevented. me.
Everybody in the other departments has the same excuse.
Well, I know, but Paul, I'm saying, if I can do it, next year I'm planning to do it.
Yeah, okay, every year we keep going through the same routine, and I finally had it.
I got one, officer that's been at 3 different schools, and I have no money, and she's paid for herself.
No,
we
no,
shouldn't
no.
be
Paid
having
airfare, she's done everything.
No, it is not what I'm saying.
No, you need to be asking
Or I
Rick for
gotta
that.
beg for.
No, she
No,
needs
no,
to
there's-
say
there's-
Yes, you have to ask.
Yeah, there's no begging on it, just,
I'm
that
gonna
needs
follow
to come from
Paul's
within.
example and just say no. I'm just kidding. All right, we heard you, Paul, and
That's office supplies and this travel.
And I'm sure you have actual 25 numbers there that are already done through the whole year. Somewhere in there, where, what wasn't spent from the year before that.
The year before, I don't, yes, I do, in fact.
There you go.
I don't know if I brought it
Oh
with
my
me.
gosh.
No,
Because
that was, you
I
meant,
just remembered that last year we had the same exact
Started last
discussion.
year.
you meant education travel, correct? Not office supplies.
He has all three combined.
He's also talking about office supplies too. He's not up on that.
Office supplies by itself, and then the other two together.
So I
Or
got
three
$4
together.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just in a department head meeting, if there's one that is lacking, all they need to do is come to you, you reallocate,
okay,
send them
Or
on the
transfer
way.
within
No one
the
should be paying out of
Yeah.
pocket.
Transfer within your department.
yes, that's
I think
No one
it's
should be paying out
also-
of pocket.
I think it's also important for the staff to continue to get like budget actual reports. And Adrian often will run these and give them to the department heads at every staff meeting. And it's helpful for a department head to look at these line items for office supplies or travel or whatever. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Richmond for a training. I'm like, well, I'll stay at my son's house because I don't want to spend the town's money. And I still do that, honestly, because I do want to save the town's money. But, you know, it's nice to know how much we've spent, what's left, and all sorts of different things, so that then you can say, oh, I can take that training. I didn't realize I had that, you know, what was there. So it's really important that department heads are really used to reading their actuals to budget to actuals. So
You're
that-
talking to me or you're talking to other department heads?
I think
Yeah,
that's something
okay.
that, you know, that we need to really,
And I understand that, and I think we all understand that, but if there's someone that needs training, or there's a class that someone needs to go to, and it's not in that budget, it needs to go to Rick, and then boom, bring it back up and send them on the trip.
exactly.
And then the
And
other
we
thing, just
will
getting back to the
support it.
credit card,
Yes,
real
yes,
quick,
yeah.
Like Katie's
I'm sure with
person
our-
should go, we should have found that money. I mean, we've got the money.
and Katie, what you were saying about the credit cards, as far as not having them for 45 days, in this day and age, I don't know why we just can't run the reports while they're sitting there on the thing before we get statements. I mean, just saying. I mean, there's gotta be software out there that can actually see what the credit card bill is gonna be prior to actually.
Yeah, we
getting
get
it.
the bills. It takes time for them to put it in and have it charged against each account.
I thought you were physically waiting for the statements to get there.
No,
before.
we're paying the credit card on time, but it takes time for them to reflect it in our department line items, where that's getting credited.
Got it.
all right, page 17. We're almost done.
Just a question,
The coffee.
Adrian, the first item there, appropriation for fund balance. Is this general fund or is this
That's,
capital?
that's capital fund. I mean, that is really there to show, you know, what, if, you know, assuming we fund all of these expenses,
Right.
and then assuming we have the 6% transfer and the 0.5% meals tax transfer, that 5.481 million is how much funding the capital fund needs
but the capital fund balance doesn't have 5 million in it. It has a certain amount, and you gave us a report that said there was $1.5 million or something in the capital. So do you take it out of fund balance for capital and for general fund?
So, yeah, and I'm not entirely clear because we're still waiting on our final audit. There may be some adjusting journal entries. So there was one transfer between funds, that our auditor had recommended maybe correcting. I don't know.
All right,
if
well,
we're
I
gonna
don't
go on
expect
that.
I don't expect the capital fund to go up from the $1.5 million that you talked to us in February. So it has to be coming from the capital and from the general funds, right? That's all I'm questioning.
So yeah, I mean that, yeah, it may ultimately have to come from the general fund as well.
Okay, if you can add that to your notes, please.
And if it's coming from the general fund, should it be shown under the transfers out as an expenditure?
Yes.
The only other thing I have for this, we need to see a 5-year capital plan, right? We have a policy, we have a camp program. We need to be seeing a 5-year plan. I saw it in the audit book there. We should have in our budget books here, we're getting back to looking at 1 year at a time. And we did away with that, and we have camp program.
We work on that?
Yes.
So that matches to our priorities list and everything as well.
Yeah, we're gonna have to match it up to what we just got, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it shouldn't be that far out. Shouldn't be that far out. We had a hundred feet, so it shouldn't be that far out. I don't know if we had, I think it was 28 or 29 or whatever. Years out.
All right, that service,
Yes.
pretty straightforward.
Harbor revenue. 19.
What's nice here is it transferred from general fund, the line 2110, has gone from 265 down to 115.
Yeah, well done.
Super.
Most of that's, in that under 115, most of that is repair costs.
All right, any other questions? Page 20.
That's fine.
No, it's really good.
Yeah, really. Anything on 20?
I guess the dedicated internet is something that's been a problem out there for the harbor, dedicated internet. Right now, you have internet services that's included within the town.
We have internet that's bouncing off the town hall from what I understand. There's current fiber around that, and it's not great.
Okay, all right, all right. All right.
That's been crappy for years.
It's bad.
It's been bad for a while.
All right.
All right, page 21.
21.
And you guys, that's part of the docket sheet, so, in there. So,
It can make it for it.
yeah, it's getting recouped, so.
Any questions or?
I did have on the repair and maintenance, we're only at 15,000 this year. And we're budgeted for 70 this year, but we've only used 15.
This is the season, this is our time of year that we start spending money to get ready for the season. But in the marina world, we're also one really bad day where you spend that 70 tomorrow. You don't know.
Okay.
It's tough. But this is our maintenance time of year, we're replacing deck boards and doing a lot of the heavier maintenance.
So you think you'll get closer to that 70?
We probably, yes.
Okay,
I don't think we'll hit the 70, but like I said, we're that strong, you know, you just.
I gotcha. So that's really a little bit of a insurance too. I gotcha. Okay.
I can't remember, did we do a mid-year?
Couple months ago.
Yeah, in January, no,
But I think-
February 5th.
Awesome.
That was the second one. You're going, I don't remember.
All right, page 22. Page 23. On page.
Love it.
All right.
Are we gonna do anything with the recycle program that was sort of talked about?
When we had the presentation?
Yeah.
So,
Like, wouldn't that be part of this sanitation?
so it sounds to me that the approach that he is gonna go right now is not to pursue a town-wide, but to
Okay,
try to pursue like getting a business license and trying to get individual contracts.
gotcha. Okay,
And it may change at some point, but that's different direction.
great. That's great. So it keeps us out needing to be in it. I love that.
And
Okay,
if it does, we'll have to come back and do a bid and, or
Got it.
RFP.
okay,
Well, you first have to get the town to agree,
Yeah.
right.
right? And that was the impediment in the past. People said, no, I'm not spending another $7 a month
Right, right.
Correct.
But if it's individual.
for everybody.
Yeah, if it's individuals contracting, that's different. That's great. Okay.
All right, staff, do you have anything to add? Anyone?
I just wanna say how extraordinary they've been throughout this whole process, because this was a new way of doing it for everyone. Very new way. Right.
Yes, sir, the process where we brought them in, we talked through things, we've gone through every line item, we corrected, we moved things around, we also clarified what the accounts were, so we spent a lot of time on this, and,
We'll see how much it blew up with the first part of the meeting.
I'm very happy we got through it in one night.
Specifically, folks who have been very patient.
Yes.
Are here.
Okay.
I feel like we should hear from them, because they have endured 3 hours and 20 minutes with us.
With no pay.
With no pay.
Can I just ask? I was just going back to look. Did we put the dollar request that they requested in for sidewalk infill into the
And
budget?
it's in our camp.
Yes.
It's 100, as 100.
It's 100.
As 100, but they're looking for 2?
Right.
Okay, but it's in camp, not in
Right, and
this.
you have
It is
the
in
email
this.
that was submitted, and I don't know if you wanna actually listen to them discuss or talk about, or if you have questions with them, that would be appropriate.
Well, let's just talk, like Main Street is gonna be coming back to talk to us, right? Is that
Oh, that's-
more appropriate, and is there any other organization that we need to?
We could put them on the agenda for that meeting.
So you guys would come back and explain why you want 200,000 versus, even though you broke it down.
Yeah, you'll see it broken down.
That would be your time to sell it.
So you get to come back and see.
No initial questions that could prime us for strategic presentation for you?
Well, I didn't read the handout, but I would probably be asking how you prioritized and why. Maybe a report on what you accomplished, if you've seen that. Talk a little bit about what the 100 grand got you this year. And strategically, if you had to make choices, you couldn't get the 100, let's say you could get 125, what would you do? That kind of stuff.
It's actually pretty much.
That's all.
I see it, I realize that, but I want to hear from them.
I assume, Bob, that the unspent money for this year, just, we haven't paid it yet, right?
No one's been,
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but I mean, we show 47, we just haven't been invoiced for completion yet, correct?
These checks just haven't been cut yet for the rest of
For
it.
the completed ones we've
oh,
done.
yeah, we actually had spent a little bit more than that, because, nothing was taken out.
Good.
Any idea how many linear feet we added this year?
About 800. And the per unit cost this year is a little bit higher than we were estimating
Fig, you had one coming down and one going up.
No, there was already one on the other side.
No, at Jefferson.
Right.
So while we
Yeah, you're
sat
right.
here all this time, and since you asked the question, why don't we go ahead and just, for a minute or two? Is that
I mean, just to
okay?
be honest with you, if you keep
You
it to
know,
a minute or
since
two,
we
I'm
can-
fine with it, but I was just saying to be fresh for the new meeting, but I'm fine with a minute or two, and we can
Since
keep
we
it
sat
at
here
that.
for 3 hours and been very patient, there are multiple people here from it. So, what was the overall goal of the group, both in phase 1 and then on to phase 2, was to ensure that every street in town, both east and west and north and south, had at least one side where if you got on the sidewalk, you could walk down it and not have to cross over. So if you were in Fig and you were going to Bays, you were able to do that. If you were in South Mason and you were going to the park and then on over to Washington, you were able to do that. So what was accomplished with the additional money, and we are very thankful for that, just to be clear, we were able to do Fig and Madison. And that's what you see, the easiest way to see it is when you drive into Fig and look by Craig and Rita's house and see the beautiful sidewalk. So Fig all the way down to including the additional work that Bob had included that wasn't on our list, but he felt was important. And then Madison all the way down from Fig to Bay. So that is what was accomplished with your initial money. And as we looked to a phase 2 into this request, we said, well, first off, the highest priority should be completing that vision. And so therefore, that got us to Jefferson, and we think that's the highest priority because that actually has the most sort of gaps in it as you go down, on the one side of the street. Then we thought Nectarine because, we were very concerned about servicing that corner of the town, including the church there, which we already, with Madison, had been able to serve. And then we started working our way back up to Harbor and Pine with the idea, and at least if I go wrong, I think for the $125,000, we think that would actually complete that initial vision. Then after that, it's looking at, in some ways, more targeted things. There are still handicapped access pieces that don't connect to anything. And we have heard, and it headed to our committee, someone from who has to use a wheelchair to get around. And we said, well, okay, now that we've sort of done the big goal, the long-term goal is all the sidewalks are put together and they all work. But, to come back and say, all right, how do we help that population specifically by going around and being much more targeted, so it may not be as quite a big a project, but might be focused on it. So that's what we would do with the additional monies beyond the 125. And what was included as a placeholder was 100. So that doesn't quite complete, the original vision, and so therefore, we would respectfully request that at least be the 125, to do that. And if the cost per square foot's a little bit less, then we've got a contingency there if we need to deal with that. So that would be what we would tell you next time. So not that we don't want to come back and sit for another 3 hours. It's very delightful.
I promise you the next one won't be 3 hours.
I think if you were to call it training and education, we would
Rick can take it, y'all can take out any budget you want, we don't care, that's y'all's decision.
What would be left after, if it were the full 200, where would you go from there?
From there, we would spend the rest of this year developing a master plan. So like, the way that this year and last year worked was we were really focused on trying to get that continuous stretch from end to end. And we picked the path of least resistance, least obstructions, least amount of trees, shortest, side with the shortest amount of distance.
Right.
And then if you look at the map on the email, everything that's not being asked for this year still needs to be addressed. And so we would spend this year as a committee doing more outreach and, determining how are we prioritizing, because it may not necessarily be end to end. You may at one block and say, holy mackerel, that block, you know, has a lot of issues. Or maybe in our outreach to property owners who are directly related to that segment, we might learn some people have real accessibility issues getting in and out of their house to their car, or, you know, there's different kinds of considerations that we want to deliberate, but ultimately, everything on that map would be considered, and we would want to think through how we're prioritizing things and ideally present that to you all on how the deliberations went and everything.
That's fine. Bottom line is if we do 200, there's a lot to go.
There is a lot to go. I mean, even if you just look at the south side of Madison, that's just as bad as Jefferson's, another 90 grand right there. So,
And as people have seen the work, folks have reached out because, you know, we didn't spend a lot of time looking at Washington because you've got the community trail, and you think that, but the folks who live on Washington and that, you know, have approached and said, wait a minute, you might want to look at our area because of the mobility issues and other things that are there. So, I mean, we always started this with the idea, you know, we wanted to deal with safety, we wanted to deal with accessibility, we wanted to serve both visitors and residents, and that still remains the.
I think that there is a T-Mobile grant that focuses on serving an aged population via sidewalks and ADA ramps. I think we should look at that.
yeah.
It's a pretty decent grant, and you can show what we've already contributed. I feel like you might say, there's an AARP one as well, the two together. I'll try to dig up that info for you.
That would be cool. And even like, you know, certain things might fall under VDOT purview.
Right.
That our outreach identifies as a priority, but we don't necessarily need to look to
Right,
the town to fund it.
right. I was just saying to supplement,
Yeah,
especially some of the ADA issue stuff.
But don't take all this as anything other than we are totally appreciative of the funding you've provided and the support we've gotten from the town manager and the work that Bob has done to, because once it rolled, and as you saw, it went really quick. And that's,
They did a great job.
They did a great job.
Oh my gosh.
so again, greatly appreciated.
And this is my last thing, now that it's already out to them, anything else that's done just goes through them as long as they want the job, correct? We don't have to put it out for bid again, is what I'm saying.
Well, I could bring you a sole source justification.
You had two bidders, you probably could.
We only had 2 bidders, and, I mean, it's hard to get bids.
I know, but I just wouldn't want the next one coming in doing a big
Graphic job.
That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
according to one resident on Madison, that did a graphic job.
I walked it the other day, it looks great.
I walk it all the time.
Can't Ralph just do it?
All right, on that note, can I get a motion?
Wait,
Oh,
sorry.
I didn't see anything else on my agenda.
I just wanted to give you an update on something really quick. In the last town manager's report, or one before that, I had mentioned, you know, a bathroom update and how you should see now that we have the new, I'm calling it Deuces because I think it's funny. The trailer, we have that, it's in place. The Silver Bullet is now back at the yard. It's going to be refurbished. And I had mentioned we're going to use the Silver Bullet to move around town, and it's a possible location to be at the north end. I can throw these up in the air. I'm getting bombarded with the residents that are very frustrated. They are upset about us even potentially even thinking about relocating the Silver Bullet there. So I am not going to be moving forward with that anytime soon, just so you know. But I have responded with a letter to everybody to let them know that thank you for your information. Thank you for taking the time to submit a request or concern. This is just a temporary solution that we're thinking about for the visitors that come. There's no restrooms on the north end. In the master plan we have planned, it's on the website, a location is at Jefferson and Bay. We have a plaza that we're gonna include, so it's on our website. I have, just letting you know, just trying to diffuse this, but,
So you're not
somehow-
gonna move it, you're not gonna move the
At
silver bullet to the north end,
at this
are
point,
you?
I'm not planning to move
Okay,
it
good.
there unless we feel like we need to provide a better service at the, and that would still be very temporary. But at this
I
point,
think it was already being discussed as temporary.
it's always been distinct.
It was never a discussion.
It's got out just like the hump did, and people have made different conclusions, and so I'm just letting you know on the record that we are not planning, I'm not, in my operational ability, not planning to put it there. Unless we have to.
And we are using it for sale 250.
That's correct.
Okay, good.
But just, you know,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.